Good afternoon and welcome to TalkSports. It is our Saturday sports special. Good morning, probably, wherever you are too. You never know. You might be morning, afternoon, even evening as well. TalkSports is back again, and unfortunately, we didn't have a program last weekend, but we explained that it was due to the CARIFTA Games in Trinidad. So we're back this weekend, although we're in and between because there's also the Penn Relays taking place this weekend as well. But nevertheless, we'll be reviewing the CARIFTA Games 2025, and one of our guests will be one of the coaches of the CARIFTA Games team, Mr. Lee Coffey. By the way, Mr. Lee Coffey is all the way in Europe, somewhere in Europe, and he'll be speaking to us about the Grenada's performances, especially in the track and field. But not taking away anything from that, we must let you know that Grenada won a total of 24 medals at the CARIFTA Games, 24. 13 in track and field and 11 in swimming. Yeah. So the swimming also took place in Trinidad on the same CARIFTA weekend. It was the first time in a long, long time that they had swimming on the same weekend and in the same host country as the CARIFTA Games. So it was a real big CARIFTA Games party in Trinidad last weekend. But as early as possible, and we're hoping to at some point that the president of NACAC, Mr. Mike Sands, will join us to speak about the CARIFTA Games, the 2025 games, and what in store for 2026, because all indications are that Grenada most likely may host the CARIFTA Games 2026. Let me welcome to our program Mr. Lee Coffey. Mr. Coffey is in Lausanne, Switzerland this weekend. Well, good evening to you, Mr. Coffey. Hi, Lee, are you hearing me? No, I think Lee just froze for a moment. Okay, yes, Lee?
Yes, I'm hearing you.
Right,
Pleasant
yeah.
good evening to you, Mr. Michael Bascom.
Mm-hmm. Well, we don't have a good connection, but certainly, hopefully, I should say that we'll get Lee back and get that connection, as Lee just arrived in Lausanne, and he's trying to get all things organized, moving from a briefing to coming to speak to us on the program. But hopefully, we'll get that sorted out. But Mr. Lee Coffey is in Lausanne, Switzerland. In fact, he's attending a coaching seminar there. Let me see if I have Mr. Lee again. Coach Lee, are you hearing me?
Yes, I'm hearing you. I'm hearing you.
Yeah, we tend to have a sort of delay, one, and two, a little sort of feedback. There's a little lax in the line. But if you're hearing me, yes, if you're hearing me,
allow me to extend.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes. Yes. So I said the sporting yes of Grenada and to the world, like from Lisbon, that's in Switzerland, as I'm here to conduct the final leg of my coaching course, that is the IC coaching program. So basically is a wrap up and graduation.
Yeah, Lee, we having a lot of problems with the audio on your side. There's a lot of delay on that part there, so we try to see if we can sort it out. But I was trying to glean from what you were saying that you are in Lausanne, Switzerland, on the last leg of a training program on a course, and I that's the gist of what I got before you faded away. But let's try again, Lee.
Yes.
Right, and I think you're hearing me clear. On right, you're hearing me clear.
I am.
Right, so it appears to be something with your audio coming back towards us. But let's look at the performance of Team Grenada, the CARIFTA Games, the track and field segment in particular, 2025.
Yes, Team Grenada an exceptional job. Capture medals is no easy feat. going that it's a large team, supporters there. I think
All right, Lee, let me just, we still having problems getting you on. So what I will do, think I will get you sorted out in the background, and then we'll come back to you, because we've seen you. The audio is a bit in and between, so we may probably want to just go with the audio or something, but we see how we can sort it in the background there. In terms of you getting back to us, yeah, right. And we wait on Rudian, who is should be on with us momentarily. But as indicated, that the a commendable performance, we should say, from Team Grenada. You will agree, a commendable performance from Team Grenada at the CARIFTA Games. I know a lot of folks were able to follow it. They were able to see some of their favorite athletes. They were able to throw support behind the Grenadian team. Lee, let's see if we got something sorted out there now. You there? It seems as we having the same problem, Mr. Coffee. I don't know, it seems as if we having some problems with you on your side, because you hear me clearly, you said, but somehow we're not hearing you. You were saying something?
My connection is right up.
Yeah, it's not just, I think it has to do, yeah, its connection is right up, but I think it has to do because there is something with the audio that's coming back towards us. And somehow your picture is also fading at times, so it's sticking at times. So you may want to just probably start all over again. That may, take care of the bug. Probably for now, we probably take care of the bug. If you want to start all over again, and yeah, that may take care of the bug. Oh. Right. Yeah. So, folks, as I was saying, so until we get Lee sorted out, the track and field team did very commendable. Let's start first of all with them, right? And then we also had the swimmers who did as equally, because they won a total of 11 medals with 12 swimmers, something like that. So if you look at the ratio, I would say that is commendable, right? And to win that amount of medals at the CARIFTA Games level, that is not OECS, that's the CARIFTA Games. That's the best among your peers in the region, whether it's the Bahamas, whether it's Jamaica, Trinidad, Tobago, the best swimmers of their age group in the region. To me, that too is very, very commendable. I know we were able to focus a lot on the track and field. Yes, it was on television, it was streaming live, etc. The swimming was also streaming live, but obviously there was more attention and more focus on the track and field. But our swimmers also did well, and we also like to congratulate our swimmers for their outstanding performance at the CARIFTA Games 2025. It's our hope that one day soon we will see Grenada hosting the CARIFTA Swimming Championship. Just as hosting the track and field, we will hopefully see that one day, right? So much to talk about. There were a lot of individual performances. I know a lot of folks were able to decipher and chose for themselves who they believe was the best athlete on showing for Grenada. I have my choice. You have your choice. You can probably throw it up on the comments who you think was your athlete, your Grenadian athlete of the meet, of the championship, right? Especially if you would have seen it all wrong. But let me just welcome Mr. Rudian Silvan to the program. Good afternoon to you, Rudian. Welcome.
Yes, good afternoon. Sorry for the delay. I just had some things I had to try and finish up and then run back in. So I apologize for that. But pleasant good afternoon to you and to our very commendable and well respectable audience. Thank you for coming on. As usual, Saturday after Saturday, you're always on with us. So thank you again. Certainly, Michael. So it was certainly a good CARIFTA Games, and I agree with you that one day in the near future we will host swimming in Grenada as well as track and field, maybe at the same time. So certainly we're looking forward to that.
Yes, right. Yeah, that's our hope that at some point in time we will be able to do everything. Probably one big weekend, one big celebration, one big party.
Yeah,
Of track and field, and swimming, and hope, and probably even road cycling or something to that effect. Um,
everything that CARIFTA hosts, we will be hosting it.
all
Everything.
all things are all things are
Yeah.
possible, right?
Yes.
um so that's it. We'll come back and do our review together. But this weekend as well, we had the it's actually going on all now. It is the Penn Relays, right?
Yes.
And it's something we have been speaking about. And I just want to throw it here while we're on that, because it's something we have been speaking about over the years in terms of, and I'm glad to see that the Alumni Association International of Grenada, well, of the GBSS, sorry, catch on it and decided, hey, let's do something. We are saying it again because I saw a lot of comments, and some of them are so unfortunate about whether the government that supported GBSS and all sorts of foolishness. So, folks, listen, some of them I don't even want to repeat. Okay, is the alumni, the International Association, the Alumni Association of the GBSS that supported the GBSS in attending the Penn Relays. Okay. Likewise, we have been calling on like other alumni associations of other institutions. And by the way, it doesn't necessarily have to be the alumni association. We just, because we are in the diaspora, we have been making that appeal, right? But you have to engage, right? You have to engage. You can have, if you start fundraising activities now, let's just say for a start, every month for now, you have some sort of fundraising activity in the school geared towards preparation for, let's say, I just use the Penn Relay as an example because there are other meets, right?
Yeah.
You have Drake's Relay, you have all these sort of things, right? But let's just use that as an example. I am certain, Rudian, by December or the end of this year, you will be in a position where you can at least fund, if not the entire trip or most of it, for the Penn Relays. Simple as that, right?
Yes. Yes. Certainly.
I'm saying that
Yes.
it's just
Yes.
your fundraising activity,
Yeah.
not
Last year, just yes.
necessarily
Yes.
not necessarily any assistance from whether it's an alumni association or a sponsor or whatever. So sometimes the schools have to be a little more creative. There are many things they can do as fundraising activity inside of the school. When we were at school, we used to have what you call harvest and fair, and hey,
Yeah, those things. Yeah. Yeah.
and all the donations were from parents, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
The
And I
school,
remember.
the
I
school,
remember
the school reaped
fundraising.
benefits.
I remember fundraising at the Magan College to go to Trinidad. So we went out and we went to businesses. We the athletes went out. We left St. Patrick's, so we went to St. George's. We went to a few businesses, and we fundraised to go to Trinidad.
Yeah. So
And I'm talking about that was
yeah.
years ago. I'm talking about 19,
Yeah.
90,
But what I'm
93 or
saying
something like that.
in
So
this period of time, there's so many things that can be done. You don't
yeah,
necessarily have to go to businesses and things like that. You can have
yeah.
your own
You can do
fundraising
it yourself. Can be
within
done
the
by
school.
yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, within the school. You have a lot of past students who will probably pass by and support. The GBSS started this thing where they used to have like a Tanya Log Friday and all these sort of things.
Yeah.
And the guys and girls will pass into the school on a Friday afternoon and support. These
Yeah.
are activities that schools can
That can be
have
done. Yeah.
as fundraising activities. And I'm certain if you start a fundraising drive within your school, there will be those who will be willing to assist you, right? You cannot afford or hope that an alumni association or folks in the diaspora will be able to pick up the bill for every single thing for the school for for such a venture. The students will have to get visas, so therefore they will have to travel to Barbados to get visas, etc., etc. You will have to have training, preparation, accommodation when you get here, all these sort of things. But if you start now, there could be a possibility. And I'm just throwing that out again because I know the GBSS, and I spoke to the principal who's actually here, and they have a strategic plan, as they call it, in terms of going forward with the GBSS in terms of that. I am saying come 2026, it should be the GBSS and company. Other schools should also be in the free. If St. Vincent, listen, St. Vincent and the Grenadians only started a few years ago. The GBSS were there all the way back in the 90s and things like that. So I am saying that's when SAS, GBSS, Anglican High School, they all went to the Penn Relays before, right? I am saying that other schools, Westerhall Secondary School was the last school that attended the Penn Relays for Grenada, besides the GBSS now, Westerhall Secondary School. And I know about it because I was part of the preparations and all sort of thing when they got here, getting them to Staten Island for training, competition, getting them to Philadelphia and all these sort of things. I am saying other schools can do likewise. It should not be just the GBSS in 2026. If St. Vincent and the Grenadines can have 3 or 4 schools, St. Kitts have 2, all these other countries that started after Grenada, they have, 2, 3, 4, 5 schools now, right? Of course, the Jamaicans become a staple in the Penn Relays. They carry probably most of their schools there. But that is something I think that we can work on. And I'm encouraging the schools in particular, while the alumni associations, especially the diaspora, can get involved and can assist, the schools have to take up the initiative. Hey, we want to do something. Here is what we're planning to do at home. How can you assist us? These sort of things. Because, mind you, the GBSS arrived here about 2 weeks ago. They came here very early. They were able to acclimatize themselves because obviously, it was cold at the time, etc. They were able to get all the necessary gear and, things like that. They were able to participate in a meet last weekend, all these sort of things like that. So, and it's an experience for the guys because they're young. Some of them are 13 and 40 years olds. The ace team was not here. The guys were at the CARIFTA Games, right?
Yeah.
So it was an experience for these guys. They're young. They will be around come 2026, hopefully, and they will be able to share that experience. They will be able to understand what it takes. They understand now how the Penn Relay is contested when you have, 30-something heats.
See a different light of how things run.
Over 300, over 300 races.
Of course,
contested within a 2.5 hour window.
Yeah.
Right. And
So
how
when
it's
you have,
done.
and it's bam, 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 bam. There is no thing. It's bam, 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 bam.
Rudy, and I saw some of the comments on social media about how chaotic it is, but they don't understand how this is done. It's not chaotic. It is not chaotic. You have to be there watching it on video. It may look to you as being chaotic.
Chaotic,
how it is being done. It's seamless.
Yeah.
You have to get all these events off within a certain period of time. You're talking about 300 teams within a 2.5 hour window.
I know. I run in it already, so I know I've seen it. I've been in it.
I've been at the Penn Relays for a lot of years, and including 2012 when Grenada had its team there. But I'm just saying the experience for the
experience is a different experience.
It's a different, and I know how the Jamaicans have been able to conquer that, and because they know how it is, right? Yeah. They get there, it's a scratch, how it goes, right? So, I'm sure, yeah, Lee is in the back there. He's trying to get this sorted out there. We'll get some comments there. Good afternoon to you, Chenny. When will the Saturday Sports Studio and Sports Bar be open? I hope before CARIFTA 2026. Hopefully, Chenny, hopefully. Congrats to the GBSS team for the stellar performance at the Penn Relays. Greatest GBSS. Greatest is PBC, actually, Gundam, definitely that Chenny, Joseph. Yeah. Twit, Twit is a PBC guy, so I know he's just throwing things at, the GBSS guys. But no, so on a serious note, the hope is that we'll be able to see, something come 2025. Lee, are you there, Lee?
Yes, I'm here.
Well, that is a little better, Lee. So
I'm getting
right.
a feedback though.
No, that's fine. That's fine. I'm not getting the feedback. You just listen to us. You just speak. If you're hearing me, right. Congratulations once again. One of the coaches for Team Grenada at the CARIFTA Games. Let's get going. We are 20-something minutes late on that part, that segment of it. Tell us about if you can, summarize the performance of Grenada in the track and field at the CARIFTA Games.
Yeah, like I stated, Grenada did an exceptional job at the CARIFTA Games. Now, some of these performances showcased in areas of sprint as well as the field. Noted also there was a distinct performance in the area of the middle distances. Some of the girls, Annalisa Brown and Annie, as well as Amelia Samuel, gave a good account of themselves. Even if they haven't earned a medal, however, they made finals and in most cases had top 5 rankings. So that spells well for Grenada.
Right.
Also, we had that young man that started.
Yeah. We have to understand, as much as we want to hear from Lee, he's in a hotel, just got in not too long ago after an overnight flight, and I think he's having some technical problems there with the internet in particular. As you know, we rely a lot on the internet for such. So we'll see if we can get Lee back again. Seems as if I'm hearing that there's another click, which means that Lee is back with us. Lee, are you there now?
Yeah, it dropped one moment. Are you hearing me?
Yeah, yes, we're hearing you. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I was given the performance of Tariq as in the 800 meter. He was also a finalist. He went there.
All right. Yeah, Lee, I think we still having some problems there with Lee. Yeah. So Rudian, you're speaking about some of the individual performances. For you, tell me what you will describe as probably your best performance.
Wow, it was everything was just amazing. Just watching these young athletes suddenly come about, and watching some of these young athletes, and when I look at everything, and I think the future of youth in the Caribbean is bright. And I've seen a lot of young athletes who perform, beyond exceptional, in my opinion. But if I have to give, credit to a performance that was surprising, as well as deserving, I would have to say the girls triple jump. Is it what Christiana? That's her name. Isn't it triple jump? The one that won the triple jump. You're on mute. You're on mute, Michael. Yeah.
No, I'm not on mute.
Yeah.
Lee Coffey was saying, what's her name?
Christiana Charles.
Christiana. And I said her, and I believe even for herself and the team wasn't expecting that. They wasn't expecting her first place performance. But she did what she had to do. She pulled it out. She stayed focused, and I was watching her a lot. She stayed focused. She's calm. She was so relaxed. She wasn't agitated. Even when she sit down, she was just really focused. And that I seen. That's why I see a really good performance came out from her. To the level of winning it. And certainly, I would say that because that was not an expectation. I'm pretty sure the coaches wasn't expecting that. They expect her to jump well, but not to the extent of winning the triple jump. So my stellar performance will be through her. Um, the other athletes I've seen and I've heard about them in the past. The young man in the 800 meters and the 15, I've heard about him. That's why he didn't stand out to me because I've seen his performance in the past. Those who haven't seen it will say, well, yes, to them he is, and I've heard about him in the past. But certainly she was certainly the one that stand out to me because it was a surprise.
All right, Coach. I'm going with D'Angelo Brown, right?
D'Angelo Brown, yeah.
And reasons being, D'Angelo in the under 17 last year in Grenada, finished second. He got the silver medal. This year, for particular reason why is that not just falling and tripping, falling, getting up and finish, just being beaten on the tape, I should say, and getting into the final, and then with a bit of, I would say, bruised. I thought that inspired him, and that set up what I consider to be a very competitive 800 meters, right? And for me, and that's what I'm saying for me, simply because following his performances here in New York for the past year, and then going into the CARIFTA Games, I put in him for me, and I think that's my choice of the competitor for the meet. And again, folks will have to agree with me. That's the reason we have in different opinions. Yeah. But looking, Coach Lee, at the performances of the various athletes, and you were going into, at the time when we lost today, I think was the jumps and things like that. So because there appears to be a little bother, Coach, that we appear to be losing dominance in the throws. Once upon a time, we were certain of medals in the throws and not so much at the track. It seems as if the tide is now turning. We are getting medals in the sprints and things like that. So, right, we're becoming very competitive in the sprints. There was once upon a time, you wouldn't find a Grenadian even in the final of a sprint. Now we are seeing that, and it seems as if we're struggling a bit in the throws. I know your focus is a lot on sprints and middle distances and things. Hopefully I get to speak to some of the coaches in the throws. But what is really happening, or what would you consider to be the challenges that we are facing now regarding that?
All right. Well, yeah, definitely in recent years, we have shown a little progress in the areas of sprint and middle distance. In fact, one of the topic I'm doing here out in Switzerland addresses the progression of sprints and middle distance in Grenada, some of the limitations which would have impeded our progression over the years and how we can actually curb those problems. What I would believe for the surge of performance in the sprints, and to by extent some of the middle distance races, is the club structures in Grenada. All right. Previously, we didn't have a backbone. We solely depended on probably just the school system, in which they had little organized training sessions in terms of proper periodization, proper strength training, and other issues that needs to be addressed. And we must complement the clubs. The people that own the clubs and actually look after the well-being of the athletes to get them at that level. We're not quite where we want to be. However, it's a step in the right direction. And to date, we are actually reaping the benefits of the seed that has been sowed there a couple years back to date, presently. Now, as it relates to the throws, it's not my typical area. However, as a sportsman, you have to pay attention to everything, you know. You cannot neglect one side. I would like to believe, too, that traditionally, most of the people that goes to club and stuff like that, they have a tendency to favor probably the track events. There's a more glamour to it. So in that way, too, I also believe there might be a shortage of people who actually compete in these areas. Secondly, doing a proper talent identification program. I think it starts there. You need to identify the people who are best capable of performing in these events. Do we have competent coaches in the areas? I'm quite certain we have competent coaches, you know, like Mr. Paul Phillip, who can definitely function in that capacity. We have people like Nicholas Benjamin as well, who's very good, you know, in the throws just the same. So I would like to say we need to be more aggressive as it relates to the field events, because I think we just have the mindset, okay, that we're just naturally good at field events, but no one is really just naturally good at things. We may have a talent, but if the talent is not nurtured, if the work isn't done, you will find other people from other territories stepping up in the ranks and basically taking the spot which we practically dominated before. Yeah.
But Lee, let me ask you this question. And I'm going to go back a few years. And, we start with Alan Francis, then, we get him to Hazelton Regis, myself, and all of us was 400-meter runners. And at point, and then it come to Kirani. And it come to a point where every time you hear a conversation in Grenada was, when is the next 400-meter runner? When is the next Kirani? So a lot of our focus was never on the sprints. So a lot of times, I think we as Grenadian, not physically us, but as Grenadian and a whole, just we shut out from a lot of these things. Then we have Anderson, and then we go on when is the next Anderson, and everybody focus on the javelin and forget the rest of the other events. So I think we kind of hurt ourselves over the past years by not opening up the broad spectrum of track and field. And I think we just focus on that, that short aspect of, well, the next 400-meter runner or the next javelin. And now we're going on, when is the next decathlon athlete coming out? And I think sometimes we hurt ourselves. So the athletes never get that opportunity to meet a sprinter. When is the last that we ever had a sprinter, 100-meter sprinter in the Olympics? So I'm just saying that because we hurting ourselves that way because we focus on the event that other athletes that in the past has done and for themselves. So now we are kind of trying to pick up from the years. Now you've seen a lot of these other athletes that's coming up now and saying, okay, it's time for us to focus in every area, and it's definitely time to get coaches the opportunity to coach athletes in all those areas, because those are the things. At one point, we always think the same thing in Jamaica. Oh, there was only sprint. That's all it was. Now they're getting medals in the field. And besides the triple jump, they're getting medals in the shot put. So there are medals coming up now. They are now expanding themselves now because the focus was always in one area. So I think that's one of the areas too that we have to we've been hurting ourselves by doing this. It's time for us to expand.
Yeah, well, rightfully said. I'm totally in agreement with you. However, we know how these things work. It's based on inspiration. So if they're inspired by the performances of great athletes who they know of, in most cases, you will find people showing greater interest in that area. So it's like one laying down the baton to the next and wanting and having the desire to do as good as that individual or even better. So where I think we are lacking now is actually educating, as you say, our population on the achievements of past people. Like, you talk about people like the great Donald Pierre. People know the great Donald Pierre and the exploit and how good he was, in these events. You had other people excel in areas like triple jumps and so on and so forth. So once you educate them, because I think Grenadians may have the concept that there are certain events probably they just cannot do good in because of
Yeah.
history and what they know. But
Yeah.
if I just say we revive this history and we let them know that, okay, we are capable of doing X and X
Really.
in such events, then you'll see greater interest.
No, I agree with you on that.
Yeah.
So
All right. So, Lee, I know you're in Lausanne now to the last leg of your training program, and congratulations once again. I think deservingly, as some of the comments were saying that your guest today is a future international track coaching icon. Cherish those moments with him now because he may be bought away from us in the not too distant future. Lee Coffey is a blessing, and Shauna Coffey says Lee Coffey is Grenadian greatest. So, Lee, what do you think? I don't know if you know whether that was discussed, whether there was a debriefing as yet, but what do you think or you hope will happen with the core of the CARIFTA Games team going forward in 2026?
26, as it relates to where it will be held or the athletes
No.
piece. Is it
The
gonna
athletes, the development of the athletes, the core of the
Oh,
team.
okay.
Yeah, the core
Mhm.
of the team in terms of development. If for some reason we are hosting, well, even if we're not hosting, but ensuring that we have the core of the success of that Grenadian team from 2025.
Okay, but yeah, what is important is that actually getting the athletes group together, because as we say, one hand can clap. We have to get all decks on board. Now there are talents widespread throughout Grenada. I also believe there are talents who doesn't have the help, or what we call the quality help. So I think it is important once we know that we get the athletes together and we can have these little training camps. You don't have to be every day, but at least maybe every Saturday. You have different coaches in different disciplines. So the requisite skills, can be transferable to them probably on a Saturday. And they can have probably like the local coach probably come observe some of these things. So when they go back to the camp, they will have a basic idea in terms of what has to be done, how it should be conducted, so we can get maximum out of these athletes. Like many times we fall short because we probably lack knowledge and help in certain areas. Some cases because some people don't want help, and then in cases some people they cannot get the help. So I think that is one thing we can do, to ensure that the athletes, reach their full potential. We have a strong contingent going into the next CARIFTA Games. We have a head start. We know some of the athletes will be returning into CARIFTA 2026 based on the age group, so we can start there. We can even look at those who probably fell short from intercall games, but they show great potential. They can be drafted in as well because someone who may come fourth or third, sometimes they might have a bad day, or sometimes next season might be the time for them to shine. So we get all these people involved once you see ability, and we get them on the forefront early, give them the necessary encouragement, the necessary training, the guidance, as well as physically, emotionally, all the support is needed. Make sure the nutrition is intact because everything, has to work together for that one pity and that one goal which we're trying to achieve, as a country and performance at that level.
And what role or roles you think the you're affiliated to a club as well, but we are seeing development of a lot of clubs now on the island, and I'm hearing now that we have to pay tribute to some of the clubs. The schools in particular have to thank some of the clubs because the schools don't really have a program, but the clubs do have a program. So what role how important you see the role of the clubs playing in that development that you're speaking about there?
Well, extremely important, 100%. Like even from my environment, we have people like Mr. Albert Joseph, who runs the MVP, does an extremely great job with the sprinters. There's more sprint-based hurdles as well. We have Mr. Kato, who's doing extremely well as well. He does the sprint, he does the distance. You have a couple of people in the throws. We have people like Ronald Charles in finish line, who is good. We have Ryan as well, and Mr. Hood, who just joined, has started a club, Picks Performance. So we have quite a few people at the St. George's branch, that is doing great. We have with Max Swin and, the Track Blazers. Those are the big guns and stuff. They're doing very, very, very good and creating a very good impact as it relates to the development of sports. And this role is significant because, as I say, they lend the expertise towards these kids and ensure that they're in what you call a structured training camp. And that is what been lacked previously in sprints, because we previously, things were just done chaotic, not knowing when to do it, how to do it, and even probably how to test and evaluate and so on and so forth, and when to do so on and so forth. So once there's a science behind it, and the pathway in terms of the time frame in doing certain things, you must get results. And if you're not getting certain results, you can reevaluate and go back to the drawing board. And this is what the clubs have been doing. So they create that base, that base for the athletes. And definitely we're reaping the rewards of such today.
There's a question here. Well, hello, everyone. There's a question here for you, Lee. I don't want to answer it, probably for you to answer it. Mike, is Lee Coffey fully employed with government or school in his area of expertise? If not, I'm lobbying for him to be considered as our youth athletics development and talent identification coach. Lee, you wish to give Chenny a response to that?
Yeah. Yes, I could answer that. No, I'm not employed with the government. Neither am I employed with a school. I'm just a bare contract worker for an institution. Yeah. So we had discussions on that, but nothing have really done about it to date. And that's dating back more than maybe almost 8, 9, 10 years. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So Chenny, I hope you get your response and probably you can start your lobbying. Okay. Because you heard it from Lee. You don't have to speculate. He's not employed with the government. Neither is a school, but he has what he described as a contract. He's contracted with a school. And, that is something that probably can be reneged at any point in time. So what I think Chenny is probably supporting there when he says, considered as a youth athletics development and talent identification coach, it means have a structure in place where he's fully employed and is concentrating specifically on that. So Chenny, yeah. Do you think we can rival Jamaica in the next 5 years? This is a question that's coming from YouTube, but I assume it's relation to CARIFTA. Once they put Jamaica in the mix, it means it's CARIFTA. Do you think we can rival Jamaica in the next 5 years?
The sky is the limit. You have to have the self-belief, the self-determination, and yes, you have to have the material and also the mindset of the people that is involved. So it's about the coaches having the same mindset. It's about the athletes having that similar mindset, and also the administrators, parents, and everyone. It doesn't take just one individual to get at that level, but it's a holistic thing. So if everyone is on board, like we have shown areas where we weren't doing so good before and show that we had the capability of matching up. I give a typical example. Let's look at that 4x1 under 17. We actually defeated Jamaica in that race. We didn't have one boy in the finals in the 100 meter. Jamaica had 2. They had the winner and also the person that finished 3rd. What do you think responsible for that? Yes, we had a group of boys that had average speed, but we look at areas where we could have exploit. And I look at the Jamaicans at that point in time, the batter wasn't so good, on the exchange on the warm-up track. But while I was conducting the relay and stuff, the passes on that day, I really drilled those guys and asked them to focus on smooth transition. And that was done, and we were able to beat them. So I'm just saying this, it is an open thing. You look at avenues and areas whereby you can capitalize on, and that is it, because every team has some flaw or some weakness. So wherever you see the weakness, you as a coach or team, you try to capitalize on that, and where your strengths are, you try to improve on that. And once you balance this two, you definitely can reach to a state whereby you can pose a significant challenge to them. Yeah.
Lee, let me ask you this. And I know I disagree. I agree with you, but I disagree in terms of competing with Jamaica in the next 5 years, and I'll tell you why. And I think the only how we can is um, is by giving a lot of these athletes the opportunity. And I said that so many times, and I asked the question so many times that, and the answer is never prompt to me, and in the way that I would understand it. Do Grenada have a standard for character?
Yes, they do.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, they do. Okay.
Yeah.
So, and that's also that's good, right? Now, one of the things I always say now is that, like, now as coaches and stuff, you go back, you review, you see certain things, you see where we was missing athletes, you see areas where you think that we could have, because we don't have athletes in every area. If you look at Jamaica, there's an athlete in almost every category. In almost every event, there is a Jamaican in there. And if you don't have athletes in those areas, it's hard to compete with them. Trinidad almost have or did have an athlete in almost every event. So it shows that as long as you have athletes in the area, there is an opportunity for competitiveness. There's an opportunity because, like you said, a relay, you don't need to have four fastest guys to win a relay. You just have to have a smooth transition with the baton, right? Because that's what the relay is about. It's about the baton. It's not about the athletes, right? So when we now look back and well, I'm hoping that the administration is listening, look back at where we could do better, where we could improve, where we can add more athletes, and you go back and you campaign in those areas. So we need javelin people, so you work on that. We need shot put, so we work on that. We need people in the distance, and we work on that, and then we can say, yes, now we are competitive. Because we will never be competitive without having the athletes in those areas. So I think this is a way that I think we should look into by going back and doing the review. I said it almost, I've made a few CARIFTA back. I said, we don't go back and do the review. We don't have a team that say, okay, in here there was missing somebody. In here they were missing somebody. In there was missing somebody. Until then we get that, then we can't be competitive to say that we could be
so
in that sense.
all right. Yeah, well, I do get your point, but I will just add one thing to it. While this is true to an extent, but I think one of the reasons why is because from an administrative standpoint, many of the times they don't feel a full team because of financial constraints as well. So if they look at standards as well as financial constraints, and I do believe even some people who didn't make the standards, probably even given an opportunity, there's a possibility that something could have happened. Yeah. I give one example. For instance, when Gamali Felix got his silver medal, he wasn't selected on the team initially, but in intercore games, he did something that was okay, not on standard, but he was okay. And he went in there. I don't think there was an expectation of medaling, but he went there and he actually got the silver medal. So you can have many other instances where that can happen, which can increase the chances of Grenada earning more medals and, in a sense, putting them at a more competitive level to Jamaica.
All right. So let's get some comments there, because I was listening along, because
a second, Michael. I'll be back.
As you know, I have followed the CARIFTA Games for quite a period of time. And certainly the performances of, I looked at the performance of Grenada. Some people like to compare, right? And you have to look at the circumstances under which, right? So even though Grenada would have won 20-something medals probably 10 years ago, 15 years ago, you have to look at circumstances, at what were the situation that Grenada was able to win this amount of medals compared to probably this year. In what areas were they able to win this amount of medals? Because mind you, when they won the 20-something medals, a lot of those medals came in the field events, right? And that's something we're saying is that it becomes now a great, in fact, field events, including where we got gold and silver in the gold and silver in the javelin under 17, gold and silver in the javelin under 17, male and female. I think it was a silver or bronze in another of the javelin. So those were the days when, we dominated the field events. And then we had the HEP and we had the Pent. Well, there's now the decathlon now. Congratulations to Drew Clement on winning the silver in the decathlon, which is the first time ever at the CARIFTA Games we have the decathlon. But we have to look at the circumstances. A lot of times we want to compare, but I don't think it's fair to make that quick comparison when we do not have what are the factors that were responsible for Grenada to medal at that time. Jamaica normally, brushed aside and go home with probably close to 90 medals. Do you see what's happening now? Everyone is taking a little bite. The Bahamas host Trinidad. Yes, they're home, so obviously they can throw a large team. Mind you, if Grenada hosts in 2026 and they can replicate that sort of performance as this year, you will be surprised to see, because certainly you'll have numbers, right? Look at when I said Lucia and all the others, the Virgin Islands, all of them dipping their hand in the cookie, right? They're getting their hands in the jar of cookie. So it seems as if, and the person may be right, that the tides are turning, and probably 5 years from now, you never know. It could be the Bahamas' turn, right? Over Jamaica. It could be Grenada's turn. You never know what could happen. However, let me get some comments here from some folks. Do we have the date? No, we don't have. Well, the dates for CARIFTA will obviously be Easter. CARIFTA Games, Edwin, CARIFTA Games will always be the Easter weekend. So Easter weekend of 2026 will be Easter Sunday will be the 5th. So it's the 4th, 5th, and 6th of April 2026. Always the Easter weekend, CARIFTA Games. The Jamaican and Bahamian high schools were able to get their athletes from Trinidad to the Penn Relays. How do we get to be able to do the same? Well, they have charter flights. And we knew that, and I confirmed that when I was there on Thursday. And it worked out for some. It didn't work out for some because some athletes were not able to compete. Mind you, some, even though they got there, they were not able to compete, right? So remember, the Bahamas had 3 charter flights to Trinidad. 3. 2 for track and field and 1 for swimming. In fact, 1 of the charter flights was specifically for the athletes and officials. 1 was for the supporters, the parents, etc., etc. And then another one was specifically for the swimmers, right? They do that. When it was Grenada, they had the 2 charter flights. Because they had swimming in the mix, they had 3 this time. Last year, they came with 2 charter flights. Then the Jamaicans always have a charter flight, with their entire team and, officials, etc., etc. They still have some shares in Caribbean Airlines, so they do that. A school as GBSS cannot really charter a flight. So that's the saying in that day. You can't really charter a flight. Yeah. And they, you have to understand how the Jamaicans operate. They fully, modernize and, they functional at that level. In Grenada, we still have, remember, most of our officials are volunteers, right? At the Jamaica level, they have, they have the office, they have staff, they have everything. In Grenada, we still sort of doing things on a volunteer basis. We're not at that level yet, so you could understand that. Mr. Mike Sherman says, I will want to add my comments, both positively and negatively at the just concluded CARIFTA Games in Trinidad and Tobago. Firstly, my congratulations to Team Grenada, especially D'Angelo Brown, who exhibited the Caliano spirit, shared determination. Well, that's like the Caribs and Araks, this sort of thing. And will to winning, as I were able to view the events live and in color. This is my take. To the coaching staff, I think we could have medal in the boys under 17. Which event? Boys under 17 final. Which one is that? I would have used Christophe Calise on the second. Oh, well, that would be really. I would have used Christophe Calise on the second because of his high. Secondly, I didn't get the full thing from that, Michael Sherman.
Okay.
But Lee, can you just give some clarity
Yeah.
on that?
Well, if he's referring to the 4x1, where we actually remedaled in the 4x1, we placed second, right? Only the Bahamas team defeated us. Now, if he's referring to the 4x4, Christophe was one of the options for the 4x4. But after doing the long jump, he sustained a groin injury in which he had to stay out of that 4x4 race. So that is the take I have on that, and that's the under 17. But they did exceptionally well and set a national junior record, youth record in that 4x1, running a time of 41.40 in the finals in the 4x1.
And that's something, I'm glad you made that point, because I saw a lot of comments on social media regarding who should run this leg and who should do that. And in my mind, I don't answer some of them unless it's under my thing, right? I keep saying, unless you know the circumstances, give the coaches the benefit of the doubt. They are there. They know what is wrong, how the athletes are coping, and why they decided to run this person on this leg. You know, everyone believes that they become a coach or they're the best coach just by watching it on television. They do not know, obviously, as I've explained, some of the other athletes are competing in other events, and you don't know what the situation, what situation they're in, what condition, as you explained, one had a groin injury, and then you have to understand how best to manage that, right? You have to look at an athlete who's nursing an injury and may have to run 2 or 3 other events later on. How do you sacrifice him based on circumstances? So sometimes you see a lot of folks just typing away just with emotions. And I would not have put him there, and I should have put him there. And hey, have you consulted with the coach? Do you know what is the situation? Why he went there? The coaches are there, so they determine. And remember, you can make these, Lee, and I'm sure you can support that. You can make these changes at the last moment. Remember, from your pool, you can determine which one will go at which leg. Yeah, you have the decision, right? So I leave it up to you to.
But another thing with the supporters, they don't have an understanding of coaching. They don't understand of how it works. They don't only see you go on the track and you run. There's more to it than that. Like I said, in the games, there's a lot of decision, and you're hoping that somebody don't get hurt. And if they do, what is your backup? And then you talk about it is also a financial thing for Grenada to take a team and even have reserve. That's also in another case it becomes a challenge at the same time.
I'm glad you mentioned that aspect there, because the minister said, for example, one of the areas, how they assisted the Athletics Association for the CARIFTA Games was that they supported them at the national relays, right? So the ministry government kind of give indirect support by supporting them and that's what the association apparently said. Hey, support us at the national relay, and from the national relay, the resources that we get from that will be able to take us, to fund our participation at the CARIFTA Games. And I think that is what was done, right? So I'm glad you mentioned the whole issue about funding, which is very important, because I think it is one of the factors that have affected us over the years in terms of participation, specifically the CARIFTA Games, instead of sending large teams and things like that. So there's a question here. Randy Boyk, cadet, what's the biggest hurdle for Grenadian athletes trying to compete internationally? Also, are there scholarships, grants, or local funding opportunities for coaches in Grenada? Lee?
There are little grants for local coaches. However, it's done through organizations such as the PANAM. And for this happen, you have to be probably on a level in terms of producing athletes to benefit from such program. Apart from that, the more less experienced coaches, they'll just probably benefit from the program from the government, which is I think is the money or whatever you call it, that kind of program. That's the only way. But apart from that, most people they rely on the subs and stuff like that from charging small fees for athletes doing training. So there's nothing with that is concerned. Now to address the first question as relates to what is preventing athletes from probably going to the international circuit, and if there is scholarships and stuff. Yes, there's always scholarships available, but that is a whole topic by itself. In most cases, the clubs who have the kids, they are the ones who actually look out and seek the interest for athletes to move on at the next level. In the past, you had the ministry who played a role where that is concerned, but actively now that is being pursued by more or less the people in clubs where that is concerned. Internationally, now as I say, it takes a whole different thing, going at an international level and to perform. First, you have to have the resources. Secondly, you have to be at a standard, because when you say international, it's not like anybody just pick up and say they want to go to an international level. It has to make sense. Yes, we have athletes who perform at levels that do make sense. However, in most cases, those who you think it makes sense for and doesn't move on at that level, it most times boils down to a financial issue, right? So those are the parameters, are determining factors, from my point of view, that will cause that deterrence. Yep.
All right. Okay. This is from Senator Francis. Congratulations to Team Grenada, both track and field and swimming. You have once made Grenada proud, and we look forward to major things in store. Your tenacious spirit showcase was nothing short of inspirational. It was indeed a pleasure being with you. To the parents, coaches, and every official, take a bow. Coach McSween, may God comfort your family through this time of loss. Yeah, so we also want to extend condolences to Coach Wayne McSween and his family. Wayne,
just as that was brought up, it was a very emotional time on the camp. We traveled, and on that day of competition, where we know his mom was ill, despite that, he was in high hopes. And when he got that sad news, I heard the crying from his room. It was very emotional for all of us as staff, management team, as well as the athletes, that were close with him. In fact, part of the session, he couldn't come to the stadium, so we were sort of short staff. We had to pull ourselves together and make things work. Obviously, he's the head coach, and his presence not being there at one point in time, would have affected us slightly, but we were able to pull things together. But he's a strong man. The evening session, he came down, and the rest of the meet, he was able to compose himself and do what he has to do. So kudos to you, Mr. Wayne Max.
Yeah, thank you very much. And we here would also like to extend condolences to Wayne and family. Wayne has been a guest on our program before, and he always brings a lot to the program. May her soul rest in peace. Question. Congratulations to the team. Well done. My question is, do you think there is enough recovery time after intercall to the CARIFTA Games? Well, I think we lost. Okay, we lost Lee. But we just want to get perspective from Coach Lee. By the way, folks, if you're just joining us, Coach Lee, that's Lee Coffey, is actually in Lausanne, Switzerland. He's operating out of a hotel. The connection is not of the best. He just got there not too long ago. He's fact on this last leg of a training program. So coming out of that, Lee will have another level of certification. He is actually doing a study, and he's actually there to do his presentation. It's a study on athletics in Grenada. It has to do with, I think he dealt with the aspect of nutrition and all these sort of things with our athletes. So he did what was called a virtual session. He's now there with other coaches around the world to do their face-to-face session, whatever it is like that. So I think Lee is back with us. Lee. So yes, the question from Ali is, do you think that there's enough recovery time after intercall to the CARIFTA Games?
Well, the recovery, and that's a very important question. Whether there is enough recovery time, it's a double-edged answer. And the reason why I say that is that the recovery has a lot to do with the workload that is impacted on the athletes during intercall games. So if a program is planned properly, the idea is that you try to maintain a peak. So you pick for CARIFTA and you try to maintain that peak for, let's say, 2 weeks or 3 weeks or what the case is. You can maintain a peak within a period. It's more than enough, like, so you can do proper recovery technique so they could go into the CARIFTA Games and perform extremely well. However, what is the determining factor here now is the workload that is exhibited on these athletes during the intercall games. So athletes that does a lot more than what they expected to do, more than likely will suffer from the effects of premature recovery going into CARIFTA Games. So I think that would be the most factor, not just the closeness of the games. So now the question may come in is that will we come to mind? Here's what should we do? Should we have the intercall game at least a month before CARIFTA? Behind the fact that we know most schools will put out the best athletes and have them do extra events to win a championship. Should that call be made, or should we, as coaches, along with the coaching staff of schools, find a balance in terms of managing athletes' workload going into CARIFTA Games? So that is a question. That is a whole new topic.
Well, yeah, but at the same time, do you therefore agree that based on, and I mean, you're speaking of, I'm speaking to you as someone who also not just coaching a club, but also coaching some of the athletes from various schools, I should say, because some of the athletes from their clubs, affiliated to schools, that it makes sense to have some of the meets, like the GBSS had their meet last year, December, that we'll see probably it's better. Let's say, for example, let me put it this way. Let's say Grenada is hosting the CARIFTA Games in 2026, which will be the first weekend in April. It therefore means that intercall will be at least normally will be how it is normally about at least 2 weeks before the CARIFTA Games. Do you agree, or would you agree? Would you side with teams or schools having their track meets as early as possible to get themselves prepared for the intercall and hopefully the CARIFTA? Because then between that, remember, you'll have the national championships, the relay meets, all these sort of things before the CARIFTA Games.
Yeah, well, I think that is a good example and a good model. One, it gives you an idea in terms of what your best crop of athletes are early. So you can formulate your team, your strategies, where you want to place, who you want to place. Then added to that, going into the intercall games, you will have the national championship. You have a second opportunity now to somehow fine-tune what your final team will be like. However, you're not going into it blind, just waiting on probably a late date for sports to see what you're actually working with. So it puts you in a better situation where you have all the preparation. And also that can also benefit Team Grenada at a national level, because from school sports, you can see potentials at an earlier stage whereby they can also be drafted into probably the national training and have them prepared earlier for these championships.
Let me argue that a little bit. Even though I agree with you, but let me just argue for the sake. Well, as a teacher, CARIFTA Games have nothing to do with me and my school team. So why do I need it to be later? That could be an argument, right? Because it's not every school that have an athlete on the CARIFTA team. And some schools. I'm just saying it's an argument. I'm not trying to.
It's a national.
Yeah, but national or not.
Yeah,
let me
would you
do this.
say
Let me show you this.
would you
Somebody
say the same thing
mentioned
for Olympic Games or for if
somebody
somebody selected for Olympics or national World Championships?
somebody mentioned scholarship, not in terms of athletes, but it was more into coaches, but athletes. You in college in the States, every weekend you have a meet. Every weekend.
Yeah, but Rudy, and when it comes to
Every
national
weekend.
duty, when it comes to national, it has nothing
Yes.
to do with
But the
school.
national championship is also 2 weeks. NCAA national championship is 2 weeks before conference.
Yeah,
2 weeks after conference. So I'm just using that example. The time athletes are prepared prior to for championship. So the body is prepared, the mental health is
yeah,
prepared, and if that, and that's what Leo was trying to say, if they are mentally prepared and the body is prepared and they have the recovery, then they are fine. 2 weeks before is nothing
no, yeah,
compared to a meet.
no, I understand that. I'm just saying that
Yeah.
that in the event that Grenada is hosting the CARIFTA Games in 2026, which will be
Hmm.
the first weekend in April, right? It means, therefore, and traditionally we will see that the intercall, as was the case this year, was mere 2 weeks before the CARIFTA Games, right?
Yes.
Bearing
Yes.
in mind that if Grenada is hosting it, then you don't have the logistical issues regarding travel and having to book and all these sort of things, right? Because in that case, you have to have all your entries, have your tickets bought, all these sort of things, and there are cost factor involved. So if you have to add team members, that's a cost as well, because then you have to sort accommodation, all these sort of things. At
Yeah.
home, that is a more simplistic sort of thing, right? So I'm saying that to say, and I'm asking Lee as a coach and one who coaches not just a club, but schools, because indirectly he's coaching these athletes from the various schools, whether or not he believes that schools may have to look at possibly for 2026, and I'm only saying that because if Grenada ultimately hosting CARIFTA Games, whether they'll have to look at some adjustment, possibly earlier in the year, or like the GBSS, December of 2020, well, it'll be December of this year for this case, giving them the time to prepare, not just, well, for intercall, right? There will be other meets, because certainly if there are adjustments, it means that if intercall is adjusted, it means that probably the national champs may be adjusted. It means that a relay meet there may be some adjustments along the way. I'm just saying that. And Lee, I'm trying to pick from you whether or not you think, as a coach, whether these are considerations that will have to take place for the coaches going forward in 2026.
Yeah, well, I'm definitely it's high consideration. I always believe the early bird catches the worm. So it spells good for proper preparation going into these meets, as I stated. If you want to leave things for the last minute, then you may end up in a situation where you might be placed on the back burner. So I think that might be a good
So you
strategy,
thought, so
for
you
both
thought,
teams.
so you thought it was a good strategy for the GBSS to hold a meet that early, 2024 into 2025?
Yeah, well, definitely it wasn't a bad idea. The only thing is that during that period, we're looking at what you call specific preparation. So it's not the time where you would expect the best performance from athletes. So that's why I said now, you still have a second opportunity when you reach to the peak phase of training to swift out and figure out, what will really work for you and what would not work for you. But at least you have a gauge, you have something you can work with, and you just go into, like, say, the ocean blindly and just toss a bait, hoping that you catch a fish, knowing that, okay, well, you see the fish there and you know where you can beat it and catch it. So I'm just saying, it just food for thought, and it put you in a more advantageous position whereby you can plan. And sports has a lot to do with planning. And once you put mechanisms in place earlier, you're in a situation where you can plan, implement, execute, and with that, you can get good and positive results.
All right.
Remember also, Michael, Carifta was hosting Grenada last year, and they had to do some adjustment. all the schools had to adjust, and all the games had to also adjust, right? So I think certainly they
yes.
had to have
Well,
some
and
sort of adjustment.
well,
Yeah.
specifically because remember
Mhm.
they were in the track. You remember they were doing the
Yeah.
track show.
Yeah.
So that in the case had to be some adjustments
Some
specifically for that,
adjustment. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Specifically for that. The senator is saying here the Ministry of Sports recently called for expression of interest for coaches to develop sports at the grassroots level and upwards. It's one of the ways we are bridging the gap to improve sports across disciplines holistically. Senator, we're still lobbying for Mr. Lee Coffey and seeing as you're on the program, and we had the minister about 2 weekends ago. We are lobbying. I want to see everybody respect Jamaica. Let me see a lot of comments here. The issue of celebration before the finish line is creeping into all Grenada athletes, especially in the sprints, robbing themselves of respectable times and types of medals. Coaches, please intervene. Lee, Dwight McIntyre, thanks for bringing that, but I am so annoyed with some of our athletes. It was done at the school, it was done at Intercall, and I saw it at the CARIFTA Games. Lee, we have to speak to those athletes about that. It seems as if, listen, that was for Bolt, Usain Bolt, because he was a clear winner. He could have stopped, tie his lace, and run and still finish. Our athletes have to finish the races. Too many times they're glancing, no reason to glance, unless you know that you're running probably the 1500 or 3000 and you lap everyone, and you know that you can walk into the finish line. But why are they glancing? Why are they looking when they had no reason to look? I saw at least on two occasions where athletes were actually beaten on the line because of a glance.
Plans. Correct. Rightfully
Lee,
said.
I mean, as a coach, tell me how concerned is that to you?
Right, it's a grave concern because I mean, as you rightfully said, glimpsing on the line can cost you a race, and it could also cost you a championship because the points adds up. So let's say, for instance, your team lose by 1 point, and by you glancing, you get a second place finish to get the force and get an advantage of 2 or 3 points more. Then at the end of the day, you lost a whole championship because of such careless action. So I think that is something definitely we need to address. I want to believe it is an ego thing and also lack of focus from the kids because if you focus, you know what you go there to do, and your focus should not just be on winning but running good times. Then you know you got to run to the line. So if you totally focus, as an athlete, and you know what you got to do and how to execute, there's no reason for you to be turning down before the line. So once you finish the race, you could, you glimpse around if you want to, you do your signs or whatever they normally do, that's fine. You whatever they do, not showboating in any extreme way too as well. Cause that is not something we really promote in sports like that to that extremity. So yeah, I think that is something we need to address. Is a grave concern because they will go in probably international meets and probably could cost them events. Yeah.
Yeah.
But Lee, does that also falls on coaches?
Coaches promoting.
No, the coaches, because listen, I mean, I watched Team Jamaica for many years, and not one of them showboat.
Okay.
They run the race all the way to
But
the end. So
yeah,
it got
what?
fall on coaches to teach the athletes to run past the finish line instead of
Fine.
doing
Yeah.
that. That's what I'm saying. Does it fall on coaches?
Yeah, yeah. Well, of course, coaches have to take some responsibility where that is concerned. We do tell them about it, but I think we have to constantly reminding them because some of these kids, you will tell them X, Y, Z, but what they have in their mind when they get caught up with the excitement and stuff, they still will go and do it. How do you instill it? Like okay, you punish them, or you ban them. You don't probably want to take these sort of measures, but probably maybe there should be some form of penalty when
But
such things happen.
But
You
there
know.
is. It's funny you say that because in our high school championship here, it is a penalty. It is
but
at some championships here, not Canadian championship, but in some games, especially in high school, you do get disqualified. You literally get
Yeah.
disqualified by doing that.
yeah, but
Especially taking up your shirt right after you finish your line, all those things, you get disqualified. Like it happens right here in Toronto. and they do get disqualified. So now we barely see it. It don't happen. Kids go past
Right.
the line because they know,
But
right?
but
So
but Rudy, and I think it's important. A good point you make there because
yeah,
unless they are the best, you understand? Unless you reach
mhm.
that level where you are the best, and I use the Bolt
Yep,
factor where
factor.
Bolt.
Yeah,
I mean, Bolt could at that time Bolt could have done anything because I
and
mean,
mind you, a
yeah.
lot of people was upset with him
But no,
for
yeah,
doing
I'm
this
saying he was
because
loved
they
and
could have said, "Man, you could have break the world record," and you could have. So a lot of
he was
people was like,
he, wa-
"Dude, you could
he
have,
was
like,
loved
yeah,
he was loved and
yeah,
hate at the same time,
yeah."
and
At the
a
same
lot
time,
a
yeah.
lot was because of that. Because you know the showboating thing was a Bolt factor, right? And because he was the a world beater, right? He could have gotten away with that. There are those who trying to do it now, and you know,
Yeah, yeah.
it's not coming
And
across good.
they're regretting it after.
They're regretting that. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
So
yeah, they're
please
regretting after.
try to instill in our runners, our
Young
sprinters,
athletes, yeah,
particularly our
yeah,
young
yeah.
athletes, because they're young,
Hmm.
that they should run their races to the end.
And
There's
I
no
will
need
say
for
this,
showboating.
and I will say this on here. I have a lot of connection with universities and a lot of coaches in the US for scholarships, and it's things that they look at. I know of an athlete here in Toronto who did not get to a specific school because he does that in a track meet.
Yeah, they will.
And he was good. They
At
said no, they
college,
don't want that.
at
They
college,
just
they will drop him
yeah,
in a whisper.
in
They
a
will
heartbeat.
drop you in.
Yeah.
Yeah, they will drop
So
you
so
in.
a lot of athletes and them they have to understand that you want the listen. It's funny now. It's no longer you running fast. You get a scholarship. They look at everything. They look at your
Yeah,
social media. They look at everything. So it's just not
Yeah.
one thing
yeah,
alone. It's not your ability alone to get you a scholarship.
yeah.
Um, the young girl from um, the U.S. Virgin Islands. I remember her name last year in the character. She won the 100 and the 200. She's at the University of Georgia. She was
So
injured.
that's Adija Hodge, I think.
Adija Hurd, yes, she's at the University of Georgia. She's injured, but they see talent in her to bring her in. Most schools don't bring in injured athletes. If you're hurt, you're hurt. But because they see that talent in her, they see the discipline in her, they see what she have done over the past years. That's why no Coach Farrell brought her in. So certainly, there's a lot of things that coaches look at. So we want to say to our young athletes, man, it's time for you guys. If you're serious about it, be serious. And the
Um,
showboating don't get you anywhere.
Roger Duncan, sorry, is saying,
Duncan,
Coach
yeah.
Coffee, I always wonder why Grenada has not ever had an athlete gone sub 10 seconds in the men 100 meters. What do you think is responsible for this, and how soon can we achieve this? By the way, we had
By
one
the way, we
athlete.
did. We do
We
have
did.
one
We
athlete.
have
So
one
yeah,
athlete.
yeah, we do have one athlete. So
But
let me
it was
stop you there,
wind,
Roger.
even though it was wind, even though it was wind
Win, yeah, it
assisted.
was winded, but we
Yeah,
did,
wind
we
aided.
did.
But we had Nazio John with a
Nazio
9.9.
John, yeah,
Yeah, with a
yeah,
9.9. But um,
and I think
and
soon he will get it. He will get it.
and by the way, he had a 9.9 and he had a 19 something, but was
And
wind
it was
assisted. And
win again, yeah,
same day,
and
same
yeah,
day,
and it's not his fault.
same
It's
meet.
just the win. The
It's
win
just
love him. So
yeah. So yeah, we do have one, but it was wind aided. But to the question from Roger Duncan, what do you think is responsible for this, and how can we achieve this, Lee? A sub 10.
Okay. Well, some people have the mindset that it's based on genetics. So they figure like genetically Grenadians are not poised, to do such, and it's more like a Jamaican thing. They even dated back to slavery, stating that the last of the more able-bodied and fast slaves with the fast twitch muscles came and landed and settled in Jamaica. However, I think it's just a myth. I believe that we have the framework and we do have the fast twitch muscles too, that we can move to that level. Some of the factors that might be deterring us from taking it to that level, one could be a cultural thing too, the fact that belief. So if you believe certain things can happen, obviously that may follow you and just haunt you because you just believe that doesn't is not in our nature, right? Secondly, I also believe that some of our coaching methods might need to be improved too as well. Where we had to dig a little deep into the science of certain aspects of the coaching. thirdly, we have to look at nutrition too, because nutrition plays a critical role in terms of the energy systems that is in being involved, to get that sort of power base from athletes to strive, at that level. We have to look at the psychological aspect too as well, because to get to certain heights, it's not just about the physical being, but that psychological barrier that you need to break through, to get to that zone, those are some of the factors I think. And I think we do have the material, and pretty soon you can see athletes moving in within that rank. I say between now and like say within now the next 5 years, at least you can see someone within that rank, or a couple, at least two. Yeah.
But does it go back to what I said earlier on? We had the likes of Kirani, so everybody now saying, hey, instead of doing the sprint, you run the 400. Was that something what coaches was doing, and they just shutting athletes from actually putting in the work as sprinters, because now everybody's a 400-meter runner because the likes of Kirani? Could that be a problem too? One issue.
That definitely can be a factor, because you see where they had progress, and I say it wasn't to a cultural thing, saying that, okay, we had progress in the 400 meters, so maybe that's where our exploits are. So people who may have the ability to do the one may shy away from it and saying, here's what, they may not be able to get to the levels of Jamaicans and do the sub 10. Yeah. So that can limit us as well. Yeah.
Let me get some comments here before we wrap up. Clever saying, I have also noted the starting blocks now becoming a bench for athletes before an event. Let's not encourage that. Well, if the starters, you don't have a problem with it, George Robinson is saying the 2001-2004 Grenada Athletic Association Development Program resulted in Grenada's highest medal haul ever. A 2025-29 development plan should be implemented with a good management team. Probably they do have a strategic plan. I hope so. Lincoln, your boys are wrong. He says, I think the University of the GBSS should withdraw from intercol and other local school sports and give PBC, McDonald College, SAS, and them other schools a chance to win something. GBSS should only compete internationally with Lee as head coach, Rudy as assistant head coach, so Kurani will be chief advisor to the GBSS team.
Lee, let me ask you a question before we get to Chenny. Let me ask you a question. And I asked this question to someone from Jamaica, and your knowledge and your observance and everything like that. We have seen for the past year, the only athlete we see from Jamaica that actually went professional coming out from the CARIFTA and the youth is one of the twin sisters, one of the Clayton sisters. And we have seen great athletes out of Jamaica. What do you think is the reasoning for that? Not seeing a lot of younger athletes take it to a higher level, and we only see one.
Okay, all right. So very good question. Very good question. Now, what I would like to believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but what I would like to believe is practically responsible for this is actually early childhood specialization in events. Now, I don't think the Jamaicans follow the LTA, which is the long-term athlete development plan, right? And that has to do in keeping with the development of athletes and the stage, and doing events and activities that is appropriate for the stage of development. So you may have a situation where athletes, you notice that they run very, very fast at a young age. But running fast is one thing, but the next question is, are you doing things that is in keeping with the athletes and the physical development? So
whether it's sustainable, whether they can sustain that.
Sustain themselves.
Exactly. Yeah. So this will lead to what you call probably early burnout. So when it comes to the stage where you need to exploit opportunities for growth, these opportunities come very limited. Hence, now you put them in a position where it's very difficult for them to transfer into the next level or stage of performance. Yeah.
So but I asked that question to someone. I said, is it something that we are seeing that Jamaica is more built for a youth on junior development program? Is it that the main focus now? Is it that the aim is sort of focusing these kids on that level, and not to get to the next level? Because, like I said, we don't see much of them beyond the junior level or beyond champs. Most of them, we don't see them after that.
Yeah. So they do have a few that moves on, but compared to the amount of people that pass through the system, the turnover rate doesn't really demonstrate what they actually have. So something had a point there. It just slept me a bit. That was a key point.
And just to add on that, it's not only Jamaica, the US too.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Yeah. Okay. Right. So I have the point now. So what I notice happens in Jamaica, right? They run very good programs, but at that high school level now, the buck steps in, so it becomes a financial thing now. So they get sponsors. The schools have a lot of sponsors and stuff like that. Through some of these big companies, like I think Puma with Adidas.
Adidas.
So a lot of schools are forced now to upkeep these levels of performance to maintain contracts, but at the level of actually maintaining this contract, there comes a consequence, which is actually sometimes pushing kids too hard to maintain that. And in the long run of things now, the kids suffer in the long run. Yeah.
All right. So some more questions here. Comments. Lee Coffey needs no special introduction. What is needed is a decision to engage him in a meaningful way as a talent identification and development coach. There is it's too infuriating to see our athletes doing that, which robs them points and time. I think that's the whole idea of not running, into the finish line. Michael Bascom, if time permits, please enlighten the audience of the process to host the CARIFTA Games and why so are in support of Grenada doing so next year. Okay, I will do that shortly. Coming to the end with the wrap up. Mr. B, the world can sleep comfortably tonight because Shadow.
I was about to add it, and so you took it out of my mouth. I was going to wait till the end to talk about it because I'm following it now, right? Yeah, I was just following it. Yeah, that's what I'm doing here. I'm following it as well. Yeah.
Congratulations, because I don't know what they were waiting on, but
I don't know what they waited on. My gosh, that was a mess. Jeez.
Roger says athletes need to run competitively an extra 30 meters past the finish line. Now, there's an exception to that. There's an exception. Well, there are exceptions, I should say. An athlete that I noticed who goes right into the tape and busts it as if he's under pressure is Kaje Stephen. Look at Kaje, how he runs. And he runs right into and dip as if he's under pressure when he's not really under pressure. He goes right in. Congratulations, Lee, because
and that's discipline. And that's what we talk about here. It is coaching.
You're his coach, right?
Yeah.
It is coaching.
Yes.
Yeah, it is coaching. Yeah. It is coaching.
Yeah. Toro is saying the Lucian girl is a sure bet for US scholarship and greatness once she remains injury free. She is talent. She's
phenomenal. Very talented.
I don't know if I want to agree with some who say that that's the Julian Alfred inspiration. There's something about Julian Alfred that's created a buzz now in the islands and particularly St. Lucia, but she is wonderful. Christophe Calise has natural physique to be groomed into a sub 10 seconds athlete in the 100 meters. That's Chenny's comment. Lee, what's your comment on that? Christophe Calise?
He has the physique. Having the physique is one. However, scientifically, probably some more research may have to be done on him because a lot has to be considered that in terms of probably the fast switch muscles to get you to that sub 10, because the limb is one thing, but can you turn it over fastly? What I do noted here, he's a good jumper, so he's explosive. So with these two qualities, the structure and the fact that he's explosive and strong, if you can wake up somebody fast twitch muscles, you can be a very, very fast guy, if you look at it. But how far, can you provoke these fast twitch muscles? So that is something It's
So,
either
so,
side of the coin, but it's not
so
impossible.
gone are,
Maybe not impossible.
gone are the days where the sprinters, the fast sprinters, and the short, tough guys. Because when you look at it now, we have a lot of tall sprinters, fast sprinters, right? Remember,
Yes,
Bolt started as a 400-meter runner.
400, 200, yeah.
Then he
definitely.
was doing the jumps. Well, as a matter of fact, he was a cricketer also, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then in his heydays, no, he want to play football, right? But I'm just
Yes,
saying that in terms of height, because normally you associate sprinting to be the short, muscular sort of athlete, right? The tall one you will put probably in the 800 and the long distance running, right? But
yes.
times
That's
have changed, and yeah,
the ectomorphic type. Yeah. Mhm.
right.
Mhm.
And times have changed, and I think it has to do a lot with science and technology and all of that now.
But with all of this, Michael, with
Okay,
with all of this stuff, as a coach and who lead you up to success, coaching is only like 10%. The other 90% is coming from the athlete. They gotta want to do it. They gotta want to do the work. They gotta have the discipline. They have to get the sleep in. All of this stuff comes from them. So yeah, we could see an athlete. We could say that athlete could be this, but the athlete gotta want to do it. It has
yeah,
to be a goal that they want to do, and
right.
then they just have to
Because
trust in the coach to give it to them,
you
and
can
that's
force
only
them,
what
right?
it is.
You
You
can
can
force
force
them.
them, and I
Yeah,
think I've seen a lot of things with a lot of athletes, and I feel like I have an athlete right now. I feel like I am forcing her to do something that I really believe she can do. And I get to the point, and I saw her at the meet this week, and I said, "Why am I forcing you to do this?" And I just say this to myself. I say, "Why am I forcing you to do this? It's you don't want to do it." And I feel like I'm forcing you. And I said, "No,
are you
the
seeing potential? Are you seeing
the
potential in her?
potential is there. The potential is there. Literally, the potential is there." And I said, "But why am I forcing you to do this? You don't want to do it."
So
So
then,
I
so
just,
then, so let me flip it now. That is your scenario. Lee, as a coach now, and
mhm.
you in a situation like Rudian, how do you and he's saying that she has the potential, and you seen potential in her. How do
Yeah.
you get now to convince her that you know she needs to change her mind, or you
Yeah.
can convince her to stay focused and to to get with the program, as we will say.
Okay. All right. So it boils down to the individual. Okay, you have some people, they have what you call fixed mindset. So regardless what, it's very difficult for them to make adjustments and accept new things or new challenges. However, as a coach, you will give them credit for what they do very good. However, you can wait on the next side and say, here's what, you're very good at jumps, but I see a great potential. So rather than probably force it in, we say, okay, let's explore this. Let's give it a try and let's see how it materializes. So you guide them through the process, not probably shove it down to them, because something that is new and foreign, if you rush it, now it becomes frustrating, and they may be denial, lack of self-confidence too as well, and that could deter the athlete from going into it. But if you walk them through it and you show them how it can materialize, maybe it can be. I give an example again. Gamali Felix started off doing triple jump, and ability was seen. I noticed he had rapid leg turnovers and stuff like that. Myself and Mr. James, Kevin, who was dealing with him with the jumps at that point in time, I said no, we could transform into the 400-meter. We start working on him. Maybe didn't appreciate it at first, maybe didn't believe in himself at first, but created the self-belief. And here is Gamali Felix now. He's one of the best in 400. Now, the triple jump, which he liked before, he doesn't like. I mean, I'm saying he doesn't like it anymore, but it's not a competitive
Not
event
an
for him at the
interest, yeah.
moment.
It's not an interest anymore.
Yep,
Yeah. But one of the ways
yep,
too, and it's something that we talk about where it comes with understanding and again everything belongs to finances, is now it comes to getting a psychologist. Those are the things that also help, right? I
yes,
also would I have the opportunity here with these former Olympians that fall under me, that came under my program over the years, and some that I know personally because I see them that I could, which is what I'm working on, having them have a conversation with this young lady, doing a sit down, so that they will have a better understanding of, the potential that they have. So I have the tools. Sometimes we don't have all the tools that, that is there. Psychologist is something that, is also something that I'm working on also for her, to get that can help. And hopefully that might just change some things. But everything come with the finances, because psychologist is not free. Getting certain people to talk to certain people is not always as easy as you think. So certainly that's my approach. And like in the end, like you said, it's up to the athletes. They gotta want it. They gotta be hungry
Yeah.
for it. They gotta truly. It's up to them. And when they say yes, then you put the work in. Until then, there's nothing we can do.
True.
Roger says, on the psychological point of view, we need to stop rewarding mediocrity, stop rewarding and telling children that they did their best when they place last in a race. We are weakening the minds of our children. We need our children to be competitive, motivated by desires to win, to be the competitors.
Michael, remember I said something like this to you sometime, where everybody get a medal, or everybody get a ribbon.
Yeah, but how do you motivate them? Like, I mean, you just can't. If so, I mean, a child comes last.
Okay. Okay.
I mean,
okay. All right. So let me just address this quickly. Yeah. For instance, position doesn't always determine how great someone do. So, for instance, a child may come last, but they might have achieved a personal best. So, in that case, that is a win. That is a positive. So, you will strive on the positive as a form of motivation, as opposed as dwelling to say, here's what time you come last, or what the case is. So, you offer motivation in that regard. It's not to say here's what you're rewarding or you're praising someone or trying to give them false hope because they come last in an event. But there's some form of hope, and then from that hope you can strive to become better.
But you also have to be able to tell truth to some people at the same time, right? We have to put this in there as well.
We can get athletes to sub 10 once we approach it from a scientific standpoint. Sports is no longer a guessing game. Everything is scientific and research-based. Once proper sports science teams are developed around the clubs, we can continue our upward trajectory and improve the performances of our athletes. This is from Shane.
I'm not 100% agree with that, in my opinion. And we have seen athletes that come from time. Because there is people come out with the science aspect about it, doesn't mean that it's true. We have athletes over the years who have performed great without no science, nothing, nothing like that. So certainly, I just think because somebody brings something forward, we all run with it, because it's like somebody bring the electric car. Everything now is electric car. Well, the gas car was there from a long time before and it works fine. So I'm just saying, I am not this saying that it's not a fact, but I'm just saying sometimes when something new come out, we tend to jump on it.
What's about using science to enhance raw talent? So someone with raw talent, through science and technology, science as the person is saying, we can use that to enhance that. I assume, the use of science and technology, but it's up for debate. He says again, Jamaica has produced an ultra competitive environment. Burnt out is a huge byproduct of that. However, they still have great systems in place to develop world-class athletes on a consistent basis.
And you know why? Let me tell you why. If you look back at a lot of these athletes in Jamaica, the top 3 female athletes, they never win CARIFTA. I'm talking about Shellyan, Jackson, and Elaine. They never was in CARIFTA. They never win CARIFTA. You know what I mean? So they are the best in the world. The best in the world.
And they have to come and assist. Chenny is saying, you have to come and assist Lee in getting some world-class athletes for 2030. I will work on the psychological and psychosocial areas along with Asafa Powell and Usain Bolt. We shall discuss a 5-year contract. Hey, no kidding, Mr. Moderator. And let me get some few comments before we wrap up there. Christoph's strongest event is the triple jump. I think all efforts should be focused into that specialization. Martin says, good evening, Lee. Well, it's evening in your part, your heck of the world.
Good evening, Mr. Martin Alexander.
Yeah, Mr. Martin. And Joseph George says, Coach Lee Coffey, you said it well. Last with a PB is commendable and worthy of encouragement. Yeah, so that's the point I was trying to make. You can come last. What's about if you
Don't have a
were
PB.
able to? Huh?
Well, if you don't have a PB,
No, but no. The point
it's
here is that
encouraging words is what matters, you know. And not
yeah, well, that's what.
instead of
But here,
awarding something, yeah, it's
no, but
encouraging words. Yeah.
so Josephine Wilson George is saying that if someone comes last, for example, but it was a great effort, they posted. For example, Jamora Alves competed this morning in the discus, the
Yeah.
collegiate discus at the Penn Relays. She finished 5th. She didn't win,
But she break a national record.
but she broke the national record.
Yeah.
That is commendable. That's what I'm saying. She could have come 8th. She could have come last. Well, not necessarily 8th.
But she had a personal best. Yeah.
But she had a personal best.
Personal best. Yeah.
Or she had a national record, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
So coming last doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be condemned, right?
Yeah.
Because last could be just in the context of, okay, you the others came ahead of you, right? But your last, compared to your position, compared to your time, compared to your distance, could be the best, you know. So it's
but also I think the comment was also going based on if someone come last, you could tell them, hey, you didn't have a good race. It doesn't mean that you're saying anything because it's not a personal best. It's not you're saying, hey, what happened? You didn't have a good race today. And
so he's clarifying. He's clarifying. He's saying, encouraging words, yes. Rewarding is a different issue.
It's a reward is what he was talking about. It's encourage. That's what I said. Having words of encouragement, not necessarily rewarding.
So probably a final take for you to go with, Lee. There are too much egos on the part of coaches. And speaking of the coaches, coaches are not united. What is causing that problem? This is not the first time I'm hearing that, Lee.
Let me expand on this question so you could answer as well. Let me expand on that as well, Lee. It's also an issue in Jamaica. That question also leaving to Jamaica as well, because I hear the same thing in Jamaica, especially with schools. Because a lot of these coaches hurting athletes based on either, like I said, want to win champs or want to win a champs or something like that. So expand on
that. Yeah, well, ego is a great thing, you know. Because everyone probably want to create their own legacy and create a name, you know, for themselves. Like I say, when I get into the coaching, it's because of a genuine concern and passion for what I do. Opportunities that I didn't get, you know, as an athlete because I didn't have someone to guide me, right? So it's nothing to do with about for me getting involved because I'm looking for fame or anything out of it or even money per se. But those are the byproducts that come with it, right?
Yeah.
So once you've decided, okay, you see a man probably doing good and you figure, well, look, you want to do something too because you know you want to just be part of it. That means your motives ultimately and your desires is not really clear. And that is where you're in a state whereby you fall short and may not be able to help the athletes to the best of their ability because you're not doing it with a genuine cause and concern. And that is a grave concern, you know. You pick up something because you're just, you know, doing it because of ego, you know, or just trying to fool a position or create a name. So I think a different approach has to be taken, you know, without this concern. And definitely once that happen, you will have people uniting. I just say I listen to all coaches. The smallest person who probably could tell me something, I will listen to them. I won't figure, well, here's what, okay, I know so much, and who is you to come and tell me that? You know, what main concern is probably how an information is being communicated. For instance, if a coach see you doing something that may be off in his books, rather than coming and tell you about it probably in front of your camp and, you know, belittle you, maybe you could spot it and pull you aside and say, here's what, you know, I saw you doing this, but I think, you know, you should do it this way and what the case is. So once we have that sort of approach, you know, things can run in the right direction. And yes, I think we need to collaborate our effort a little more because we small as a nation and we don't need this sort of division. You're divided, you fall short. Yep.
Yeah. All right. So I promise. Chenny says the only time last should be commendable is when Toro beats Michael in a sprint. That's a big one. That's a big one. All right. Great program. As usual, keep soaring, Coach Coffee. The sky is no longer the limit. Grenada is proud of you. Let me go back to
Thank you very much,
finally wrap up
Sir
um,
Rogers.
on that aspect, Rudy, and that I was asked about, hosting the CARIFTA Games. You know, why I believe that Grenada should host the CARIFTA Games, and I'm saying that because I looked at various factors. Rudy, and you probably can come on and tell. But
Mm-hmm.
yes, people may say that we hosted it in 2024. Why we should host it again, and and all this sort of thing. But we saw a lot of social media comments, some of which I don't even think deserve any ventilation, because if you're comparing the hosting of character games about building a aquatic center, blah blah blah, we know that the aquatic center, as outlined, is already taken care of.
Taken care of. Yep.
Aquatics, World Aquatics already put money into it. The
Yep.
government already
Allocate funds for that.
allocated, well, not just
Yep.
funds, the
Not
lands
funds, but the
and
land and
everything.
everything. Yeah.
They're taking care of the building itself,
Mm-hmm.
and World Aquatics dealing with the pool and the facility itself like that. So, but don't let us compare what others are doing. So whether England is building one that costs 20 something million and the Bahamas is building one that, no, we building one that will be able to cater for
Yeah.
Grenada, right? And I assume that GASA, which is Grenada um, Amateur Swimming
Amateur
Association,
swimming.
has already signed off on that. No one is forcing them into anything, but if they're doing that, so be it. But I believe that hosting the 2026 CARIFTA Games would showcase, I would say that it will showcase Grenada's commitment to youth and sports development. That is one. I believe that. We talk a lot about it, and I believe hosting it in 2026. Also, it will sort of generate or stimulate, I should say, economic activity and sports tourism. We know what it is like around the Easter weekend, the CARIFTA Games. Folks going all the way to St. Andrews, and St. David's for accommodation. It's not just in the tourist area. So I experienced it myself last year, where you saw folks coming all the way from Grenville. When they get to the stadium, they'll tell you, hey, I'm staying somewhere in Tivoli. That to me is important, because you know why? There was a family that was staying somewhere in Tivoli, in St. Andrews, and they rented a vehicle. So someone somewhere in Tivoli had some means of income generated, and someone somewhere had some means of income generated through rental, because they rented a vehicle for that weekend, right? So I think by doing that too, it's providing a timely boost to the hospitality and the services sector, because hotels, guest houses, Airbnb, all these things are taken care. And also, which I thought about too, I think hosting it is also inspiring our the new generation of athletes. We're seeing now that track and field is becoming a big thing in Grenada, right? We saw it through the national relay, the relay meet. We saw it with the national championship. We saw it with primary school, private primary school, intercall. It's growing and growing and growing. And not just in terms of spectators, we saw it in terms of participation as well, right? So I think it sort of reinforced national pride and identity. And by that, I want to support and I want to encourage the hosting of the CARIFTA Games 2026. People may have different views about that, but that's me, Michael Mascom.
Yes, certainly, Michael. And I think I agree with everything that you said, but adding on to that, hosting a games is not as easy as most people think. However, because we really have the experience, is only about a year or so, we have a lot of the equipment, and then we still have a lot of the staff that we have used. So a lot of the officials also will be an easier for us.
We always have officials ready and willing.
Yeah,
When it
yeah.
comes to that,
So everything is in place because you're just like I said, just a year. And on top of that too, I would like to host a scene Grenada is on this hype. We under this high in track and field. Our performance in the CARIFTA Games do say yes, we can do that? Because I go back to my previous question that I asked. Now we can have a full team because they don't have to travel. Now we could have an actual full team and giving many more of our the opportunity to be a part of this team and compete at this level. So
Well,
certainly that is one of the things that we really would want to see more, because our athletes will get to compete
well,
who
well,
wouldn't get if it was in Guyana.
well. Here's another reason why folks should support it. Like Dwight McIntyre is saying, inter-regional travel is one of the most prohibitive factors in fans
Mm-hmm.
supporting the CARIFTA Games. It costs an average of US $350 one way from
Yes.
Grenada to Trinidad a stone throw
Mm-hmm.
away. Therefore, if Grenada is hosting it, you don't have to worry
Travel.
about that. So therefore,
Yeah.
people like Dwight and others should support Grenada hosting the CARIFTA Games in
Yes.
2026.
Mr. Bascom, I will
Yes,
have to leave you guys. I
certainly,
have an
certainly.
engagement downstairs. So
Right.
once
Yes.
again, it
Yes. Yes.
was
Yes.
nice
And
having me on that program. And
congratulations once again.
greetings from Switzerland again,
Yeah,
back to home country Grenada.
yeah. And
Yeah.
congratulations once again, Lee. All the
All
best.
right.
Thank you
Thank
very
you
much.
again.
Yeah.
All
Thank
right.
you.
All right.
Alrighty.
Yeah. So that's Lee Coffey in Lausanne, Switzerland. As you know, he's there now to attend training, the last leg of a training program. And he has a function. He arrived there today and he, accepted the invitation to join us. And, he has a function to attend to, and then he has to catch up with some sleep and all of that. So I want to thank him for being part of it. And certainly, congratulations once again to Team Grenada, both track and field and swimming, for your 24 medal haul, I should say, 24 medal haul. Yeah, 13 and 11. Yeah, 13 and 11. Yeah, and we're looking forward to continue to encourage our athletes. When I say athletes, our sportsmen and sportswomen. Roger Duncan is saying the location for the aquatic center is a bad choice. It's not too late to change. No one is saying why the stadium site is a suitable location. Roger, I don't know if that may be because I assume the association would have accepted. I know there was a lot of debate over the years as to where is the most suitable site for the aquatic center. But I assume they came up with their decision, and the World Aquatics would have probably come and do their assessment and agree to, whatever it is. So I'm not sure if that may be something that could be done, but I know you're passionate about it being somewhere in the parish of St. John, and reasons for. He says, how about foregoing the hosting of 2026 games and take the potential spend to develop some tracks outside of St. George's? Are people from North Grenada satisfied with their sporting facilities? We can always host another year. That may be so, Roger, but
That may be so, but
yeah, but the other thing, we just can't, and it's something that we have been talking about in terms of laying track. It takes quite a while because they have to do assessment, economic assessment. You have to do a lot of things before you lay a track. In fact, Progress Park was one area they wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
But I understood that there are concerns about flooding the river, having to do some work in terms of the field, and I think it's raising it to a level.
Yeah.
All these sort of things are things that have to be done. And putting a track, then again, you have to consider, if we put a track, what will the field be used for now? Because therefore, let's say you put a track in Progress Park. Where do you play cricket? Which it will, as it is now, Progress Park is the main cricket venue in the parish of St. Andrew. It is the main arena. So you may have to look for somewhere where you will want to put the track that would not impede on a sport like cricket. And cricket is big in the parish of St. Andrew, right? So there's a lot of things that are factors that you have to consider before you can just say, okay, yes, let's put a track here, let's put a track there, let's put a track there. And that, to me, is not something that can be done in, a few months,
Yep.
So, yeah, it is something that has been discussed and things like that. Yeah,
But
well,
the same thing go back to the
yeah.
four recreation ground. For recreation could host a 400-meter track, but you are moving everything. You got to get rid of this the stands that you have. You got
Right.
to push everything back. Plus,
Yeah,
you got a resident here, and then you have an issue now with the new stuff that they build with
the
the sea,
breakwater, the
that all the
breakwater.
breakwater, all
Yeah,
the water is now coming to the side. That can create a
yeah.
problem in case of a hurricane. So
So
it's not just one thing. There's a lot of things to concern. Even though I
yeah,
would love to see it, but there is a lot of concerns as well for
yeah.
that.
So putting a track now in certain places, unless you have the land available and you can do the economic impact assessment and all these other things in a timely factor and things like that. So because in some areas you'll have to reclaim, right? You'll have to
Yeah,
push back. You'll have to demolish
push back. Yep,
because
yep.
you want to put you have to be, I mean, a 800, not sorry, 800, a 400-meter track,
200 meter.
synthetic
Yeah,
track. I wouldn't go and put a track for 200 meters. I mean,
yeah.
come on. If you're putting down a
Not for
synthetic
300
track,
meters either.
yeah,
Not for
better
300
you,
meters either.
yeah, better you put down something that can be there for a while. Yeah.
And
So
you have to be beneficial because even
yeah,
even yes, you look at yes, you put it in let's just say you put it in Purpose Park. Can you build a stand around it so that you could
right.
somehow limit intercall now from being in St. Andrew from St. George's now to
Yeah,
St. Andrew? You put a stand around that can hold
that can
five
right.
thousand, and
Yeah,
so there's all of that. It
because
would be
that
lovely to have it. I'm not saying no.
yeah
Please don't misunderstand what I'm saying. It would be awesome to have it, but there's a lot more little
yeah.
areas that we gotta have to concern as well. But if they want to put it in, hey, by all means do. But
But
in terms of
you don't just
yeah,
put something there
just don't
because
just
you want to
put
put it.
something because you
Yeah, you
want to
don't
put it
just put it where you
because
want
you
to
have
put
the
it.
money. You say, well, let's do that day. It doesn't always work that way. You have to be. You gotta make some sense to it at the same
Yeah,
time.
yeah. I
Yeah.
agree because I'm certain that, and somebody said, they said, with all that, the successes of Jamaica, for example, in track and field, how many
How many
synthetic
child do they
track do they
have?
have? Yeah, that's another thing.
Yeah.
When you look at the number
How
of
many
track
child do they have?
per
Yep.
capita and things like that, so I
Hmm.
think Trinidad may have
So,
more
and
than
I
even
think, and I
Jamaica.
think it, and that's what it comes with when we talk about Jamaica to an extent. It also comes with discipline, and that's what you see a lot. Like we just talk about these coaches, the fighting and the stuff between coaches and so forth is because of all the work they have to put in
Yeah.
and all the stuff
Yeah,
they have
I
to do, right?
agree.
So,
I agree on the
yeah,
feasibility. The feasibility is something
yeah,
that probably will be able to do because then you have to look at a lot of factors that will play in terms of, as we say, you have to put the not just the track, but you have to put the amenities with it, and
yeah,
all these other
yeah.
things, right? Thank you very much, folks. Rudian, thank you once again.
No,
Have you,
certainly. I'm surely. I hope that one day, Michael, we could also talk about a few things that we also mentioned about some countries starting to wise up in terms of with the US and the visas, like Canada, with the
yeah,
universities to say, hey, it's time to start spending the money and bringing in athletes from the Caribbean in and expand their sport program because a lot of athletes now is afraid to go to school in the US because they don't know if they're going to get sent back. They don't know if they're going to get accepted. So there's a lot of little things now is in place. So it's time to a lot of countries to start stepping up, even including Grenada. Is it time now to see Tom Sisi? Is it time to see the universities that having major
yeah.
sporting activities? We see what's happening in the rest of the world, and once something happens in the US, it affect everybody else.
Geopolitics,
Yeah.
now I think it makes sense of we have to start looking at home. But before you go, Rudian, I just want to play something for you. Well, something that I know that I was hoping that if we had Mr. Mike Sands on, we'd have
On
played
yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah.
But Roger is still on, so I have some folks that's still on, and I want them to hear that. He's the president of the Athletics Association Trinidad and Tobago, Mr. Efren Serret. And you are speaking to Lance Whitaker at Sports Zone, that's Sports Max, and it has to do with the whole issue of funding, right? And I want folks to listen to that
was
from him.
required for such. It is very difficult because even to host the games like the CARIFTA Games, which is a regional games, I think we need to look at, and I'm saying we, but as NACAC needs to look at the host country not just having to seek resources from sponsorship locally. As a regional games, I think NACAC should now start to be reaching out to the likes of the different or companies or in without
Hmm.
the into the region to support the games because it's very expensive to run a games like this. And the contribution, although NACAC president and the World Athletics president continue to indicate that these games are the best junior games in the world, but the contribution is just 60,000 US. It doesn't really add up to that. So we need to get at least more funding from World Athletics and NACAC, as well as host countries moving up to being allowed, or NACAC being assisting to get sponsorship from different organizations throughout the region.
Yeah, I can't say that I disagree with you there, President, because Sebastian Coe, World Athletics President, is always at the CARIFTA Games and always speaks glowingly of the value of the meet, not only to the Caribbean region, but to World Athletics, because he has seen where so many of the athletes transition from CARIFTA Games success to World and Olympic success.
Yep.
Michael,
Yes.
I agree, and I would even add on to that, those who listen as well. Even having major sponsors in the country to sponsor the team. Is for example, I'm just using that for an example. Then you say you have Grenada Bottling Brews have a logo on the team uniform as being one of the major sponsors, or even Digicel Grenada as a major. And I'm just saying they could also contribute in within the countries, not only for that. And we go back to what me and Mr. Mike Sands had a conversation about many times ago. It is time to see a major company like Nike, Puma, Adidas be the major sponsor for CARIFTA Games.
Or just say a major sponsor. A major sponsor.
Major sponsor. Major sponsor.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, have a major. I'll just use this as an example. Be a major sponsor for these games. So you're talking about a major sponsor, like could say maybe up to maybe 60%, and then everything else definitely falls on the country to look into that. So I agree.
It seems from what Mr. Serrett is saying is that they sort of handicap in terms of how much they can go out and get and do. And he's saying that they should, even from NACAC and World Athletics, that they should put a little more or give them the opportunity where they can get sponsors, including the other countries, not just the host, but the other countries, you know.
And Michael, certainly go back to what I did say about dealing with the CARIFTA Games. A country like Guyana, just using them for an example, to host the CARIFTA, they have to get every equipment. Grenada has, because they recently just host. So a lot of the things they have in place, they have in storage, right? So it does make a big difference in terms of your spending. A lot of stuff you don't have to go out and get because you have it already. A country who never hosts, they have to get everything.
Yeah, well, in the case of Grenada, because of their hosting it just 1 year ago, they're in a position where there are a lot of
things they have.
Things that are already there. And even the officials who are trained and all these
who are trained,
things, it means that it's just a matter of you don't have to go through all the process in terms of training.
All the whole process of training again.
Sometimes your certification will last for a certain period of time. So you're still basically certified to an extent. And you just need to probably revisit some of the things that the weak areas.
The weak areas.
So that's the advantage that Grenada will have. Even Trinidad will have too, because they have just hosted things like that. So in terms of readiness,
that's when I come back and I ask the question, and as I said now, moving forward, because this is it seems like CARIFTA looks like it's going to be a lifetime thing going forward. I would like to suggest, and I would have going to mention it to Mike Sands, that to put a proposal that one country hosts 2 years back to back. That's my humble opinion.
That might be a tough one.
That way you have 2 years of lack of stress of worrying who's next and all this stuff. And then that's just how because within the 2 years you kind of will know who is next.
That could be
they could prepare themselves in advance.
But that could be a possibility if the questions like what Mr. Serrett is putting on the table.
Yes.
Those questions are answered, right?
Yeah.
Because in terms of if they are allowed to get the sponsorship and all of that, and by way of sponsorship, as Chenny is saying here now, CARIFTA should have a marketing committee appointed that functions for 4 years and assists each
5
host
years.
country with a regional
5
and
years.
global sponsorship
Yeah.
year round. Well,
5 years.
the committee should be with the executive, right?
With the
Should be
executive. Yeah.
for the lifetime of the
Yeah.
executive, right?
Like that. Yeah.
And they should be doing, because about 2-3 years ago they had a situation where they were doing CARIFTA Games and bidding and awarding about 2 years ahead. So, for example, we would have known now, unless in a case where
2
a
years.
country
Yeah.
cannot, for some reason, hurricane and this
Or whichever. Yeah.
that Grenada is hosting in 2029, following in 20 up to 2030. Then we have St. Lucia. You know what I mean? So these countries know ahead of time and they're
Ahead of time.
prepared.
And it's so funny,
However,
Michael. As you say that, this is how we end up here in Toronto hosting the high school championship, because we hosted 2 years ago. Last year it was at a different location, and that whoever had to host this year couldn't, and it sort of falls on us because
right.
we have our team already from a few years ago, and a lot of the equipment and stuff we have. It could have been easy for us to say yes,
But
same location, get it up. Yeah,
it used to be the hosting used to be north south.
not
So if,
south. Yeah,
so if this year it's hosted in the north, next year is a
next year it's in the south. Yeah,
So
in
what
the
it used to
south.
be
Yeah,
that you're in the north, you bid for when your period. In the
yeah.
south, you bid for your period. So
But
if
the same thing out here. We kind of get it every 4 year rotation or 5 year rotation. It come back to Toronto. Or so it does go north, south, east, and west out here as well. So same concept. Same concept. Yeah.
all right
Yeah.
then. So Rudian,
All
thanks
right.
very
That
much.
was a
Yeah,
pleasure. Certainly.
always.
It's always good to be on. And thank you guys for tuning in with us. And again, finally, Shidoro Sanders is a Cleveland Browns. It's man, it takes. But listen, when the president of the United States weighing all the way from
No,
Rome,
no, but the
to say
question,
something
no, but the
is there's a
question,
lot of questions there.
no, because on the chat group I was showing it out as whether or not
Yeah.
was it him or his father or his family? Which one? Which one they want?
But
Who they want
how hard?
retaliating?
But how hard would it be now? Because a lot of people will get down to Cleveland and say, look, you had so much picks and you didn't go for him. So much picks. So it's still gonna fall back on them again. When you see them, Cleveland will be in the highlight, Cleveland will be in the news constantly. Did they do the right thing? Did they take him early? Financially, it does help them. Because now you don't have to pay, you pay based on the rounds that you've been selected, right? Financially, it helped them out, but does it help them with the media talking about it?
Yeah,
And it will be on for listeners next week,
yeah,
So
still answered. They still need to say what it is. Is it they trying to punish his father because his father is very outspoken?
very outspoken.
All
Yeah.
that
And
the owners don't like him for
they
one.
don't like it. Yes.
They
Yeah,
don't
they
like
don't.
him.
They don't. Yeah,
So
because it speaks his mind, and they don't like that. They like to, and that's the thing, and they never change. I like that to the sense where they never change to suit someone. This is who they are. You need to change to suit someone. You know what I mean? And that's a part of it that I like. And we have a lot of people who change their ways because of that. Yeah.
all right, yeah. Okay then. So Rudian,
Yeah.
thanks very much.
No problem, my man. Have a good one.
All
All
right,
right.
so, right. So that's Rudian Sylvan live from Toronto, Canada. Folks, thank you very much for joining us. Always a pleasure being with you. So once again, it was a very competitive weekend for sports for Grenada, I should say. You had just after Intercall, you had the CARIFTA swimmers and the athletes participating in the CARIFTA Games. 3 days of 3 and 4 days 3 days of track and field, and then you had 4 to 5 days of swimming, including the open water. But what was also important was the opening ceremony, where they had all the competitors, the participants, both in swimming and track and field, participating in the opening ceremony on the Friday evening, Good Friday, right? Last Friday. That to me was that to me was good, right? And I thought Grenada did well in terms of representation. You had the swimmers in front and the athletes in the back. You gave the swimmers the opportunity because the stadium itself would have been a hallmark for the track and field athletes over the next few days. So they had the swimmers in front. That to me was good. That was commendable for the delegation of Grenada. And, everyone was as one, whether they're swimmers, whether they were track and field athletes. We want to congratulate all the participants, including the officials who represented Grenada at the CARIFTA game. Then we have the Penn Relays. Though it was a Grenada Boys Secondary School as the only school from Grenada participating, there were other Grenadians participating, representing their various schools. For example, you had D'Angelo Brown. His school is actually at the Penn Relays. He competes for Xavier High School. Then you have Jamara Alves, in the represented St. John's University, right? And she broke her national record in the women's discus today, right? She also participated in the shot put. I think she was, if I'm not mistaken, she finished. She was. Let me see if I can get her. She competed in the women's shot put. Sorry, the women's shot put. She was 8th overall, 15.03 meters. 15.03 meters out of 11, 12, 13, 14 competitors. Yeah. So we do have, and then we have some others. I forget their name. We also had Royal Delis in the. We had a couple of Grenadians in the Masters. Royal Delis, he competed in the Masters, and they did well. Saucho, his team is based in Houston, Texas, even though he lives in New York. But his team is based in Houston, Texas, and they competed on Thursday in the Masters section. Well, a few Grenadians participated in the Penn Relays. So certainly we're looking forward to more participants representing Grenada in the Penn Relays come next year. By the way, today we had Kirani James opening his season in his 2025 season in the Diamond League. He was 4th. Yes, was it 4th? Yeah. He opened today in the Diamond League in China, right? And then we have Anderson Peters, who will be participating in a javelin shootout. Well, I say shootout, sorry about that, but you know what I'm talking about, right? Let's say a javelin throwout in India sometime in the next few weeks, right? He will be there. And then we have who again? We have some competitors coming up. That's Anderson I'm speaking about. Is it? Yeah. Anderson? Yeah. And then we also have, so Kirani was 4th. 44.89 season. Well, it's his first race, so he'll be his season's best. Yeah, he opened at 44.89 in a 4th place finish today in Xiamen in China. That's Diamond League. So he will be, going. And then we have a couple of our athletes that we have to keep eye on, Gamali Felix and all those others who will be in competition somewhere or the other. Nazio John, Ohio State, it will be very hectic, guys. Just bear with me, and I'll try to update you as much as possible when those guys are competing and results and all these other things. So Martin Felix, yes, thank you very much, Martin. Great show, Michael. Yeah. Has the government given its green light to? No, the government hasn't given green light, Jenny. The Grenada Athletic Association will have to make a formal pitch to the government. They'll have to do the formal. It's a process. I think Mr. Mike Sands explained how the process is work, right? So the Athletic Association, just for clarity. So what we are doing, we're just lobbying, right? Throwing out things there to lobby, to encourage. But the process is that the Athletics Association can express an interest, an intent to host They're not necessarily the host. So it's an intent to host, an expression. Normally, it would be that you seek permission or a guarantee from the government prior to. But remember, they went to the Congress, and at the Congress, even though there were overtures before that Guyana and others may not have an interest in hosting it, there was nothing official. So it was off because you can go there and then there can be a turnaround. Barbados, Guyana, whoever it is, can always say, hey, at the last moment, we're hosting it. So that's it. So when it was officially announced at the Congress, Grenada stepped in when others didn't. Others expressed interest 2027, 2028, blah, blah, blah. Bahamas, for example, would have been 2020. They said 2027 along with Curacao, because remember, Bahamas hosting World Relays around the same time. When I say the same time, close. World Relays has been probably 2 weeks after, Easter or something like that. Yeah, but they're hosting World Relays. Grenada said, hey, we will express an interest. Now, the process is that they will do that. They will go back to capital. They will make a formal proposal, presentation to government. Government through cabinet, whatever it is, how they do their decision, will they, okay, we'll support it. Okay, we are unable to, but if we are, here is a guarantee, we will support it. Then it's moved to NACAC and formal ratification, etc. Then they do the signing of the MOU. There's actually a signing, right? That will take place with a guarantee, whatever it is. NACAC will come to Grenada and do the signing as they did in 2023 for 2024. Yeah. So it's a process, right? So until such time that the Athletic Association, make that formal pitch to government, then government can always say, hey, we're hearing about it, but there's nothing official yet. The association has to do it. And then government will take it from there. Government will get back to them and say, hey, yeah, we have considered it and we think it can work. We can support it. We can give you the guarantee, we will support it. Because remember, the government guarantee will be under certain areas, because you have security, you have this, you have that, you have all kind of things. When it comes to security, government will be, the mainstay for that. When it comes to the stadium, for example, the stadium is owned by the government, the state. So all these things is not owned by the Athletics Association or the Football Association. The government has to say yes for the stadium, because in case you need to do anything regarding the stadium, the government is the one that have to do it, right? When it comes to security, the police and all these sort of things, it's the government. So these are the sort of guarantees that needed. Okay. So on the outside though, we have folks like myself and Chenny and others. I just calling your name Chenny just wildly though, but others who have given support to it, because we believe that we are, well, and not so much in the position doesn't mean financially, but we are best suited to host it. There's a vibes in Grenada now, right? And I am certain it will be a successful hosting, right? And I think it was the right decision made by the Grenada Athletics Association to express an interest in hosting it, even though we hosted it in 2024. The vibes is that we have some of the best, and I have no regrets in saying that, we have some of the best officials in the region, right? When Grenada hosted, because we hosted in 2020, 2000, 2016, 2024. So we hosted it 3 times already. Everyone wants to return to Grenada. The Bahamas looking forward to Grenada already. Even without any confirmation that Grenada is hosting it, there's already interest in terms of bookings, expression of interest rather, of bookings, hotels and guest houses and things like that. So that's a fact. Don't argue with me. That's a fact. The Junkanoo, they want to return because they know that's a vibe. They like the Grenada setting. Hey, by the way, when they got to Grenada last year, they had a special section. The organizers gave them a special section in the stadium, and they created that vibes. They talk about it. They produce videos, all kind of thing about it. That's it. you know. So all of that, I'm telling you, it's the reason why I think that Grenada is best suited to host the CARIFTA Games in 2026. And I want you to support my lobby. I want you to support my lobby. It will do well also for athletes, our junior athletes. I think it's the right time to showcase. We have some very good talents, right? And you will be there to see them live and in living color, right? At the Kirani James Athletic Stadium. Some of them, it might be their last year in the under 20. And I think it is a fitting tribute to them, right? You will be there and you have to give that support. I want you to continue to support my lobby, right? I'm saying that. I'm preaching now. Support my lobby. Chenny, we will definitely need to import some temporary bleachers for 2026 and improve parking at the venue. This time around, we will have our own secondary schools marching bands for the event. I am on board with GA and Mike with a repeat hosting. Chenny, if only we could have taken that track and put it in the cricket stadium. Just pick it up, put it in the cricket stadium, or we will be nice, boy. You know, in terms of accommodating, because I know if Grenada is hosting 2026, mind you, it will be a sold-out event. It will be a sold-out event. There's no doubt about it. The vibes in Grenada right now regarding track and field, I think is fueling that. Yeah, you see on the program, people asking for the dates for CARIFTA 2026. It means that they already have an interest. Mind you, the same thing they're doing for Carnival regarding airlift, I think it's the same thing that they have to do. Tourism Association, be prepared for that. The same initiative that you're doing right now for Carnival 2025 is the same thing I want you to do for Easter of 2026. Because I'm convinced that Grenada will host the CARIFTA Games in 2026. And I am hoping that people will not, especially those in the diaspora, they will not be shortchanged. They will be able to jump on a flight and come home. It will probably be the best CARIFTA Games in a long time. Trust me on that one. Folks, that's all for now. Thank you for being part of the chat for the past 2.5 hours. Always a pleasure having you. You know, we like to talk sports, right? And Chenny, certainly that bar, that TalkSports bar. Roger, that's TalkSports bar. We'll have to get that going. Probably if we certainly by 2026, we should have it up and going. Okay, Michael Bascom, let's do it. CARIFTA Grenada, it will be, I am on board. Yeah, I know. So I got Chenny, I got Roger. Who else want to join us? The GA needs to secure support from government to also invite every US and Canadian athletic college coach to come here for 2026 version. Hey, listen, Chenny, it's a collaborative effort, and I think it's possible. The government can put an investment into that, and they can get good returns, right? What I would suggest the government should do, as they did, but this time on a serious note, you have a local organizing committee, a NOC. Let's call it an NOC. That's what it's called. By the government. The government has its own organizing committee that will work in collaboration with the organizing committee. So government overseeing that, because it may be a situation where government wants to say, hey, if we are putting money into this, there must be oversight, right? There must be oversight. And I agree with that. There must be oversight. So you have an NOC, and that NOC will oversee and work along with the LOC, right? So let's say government say, hey, Chenny, Roger, Toro, I want you to work along with the LOC. The LOC, this is your conduit to the government. These guys here, you have to talk to them, and they will, liaise with government concerning X, Y, and Z. At the end, you provide your report. You provide a report, which include a financial report, audited financial report to the NOC. The NOC gets everything organized, and they submit it to government for government to submit to parliament or wherever they do their thing like that. So, but, I'm just throwing out things there, but I think it's possible. It can work, right? And then you put all these structures in place. Just look at holistically all these structures in place in terms of how people can benefit. The vendors, the tour operators, and just put a package together. Look how Trinidad did, for example, this year, the opening ceremony on the Friday, right? Good Friday, which by the way was almost like Trini Carnival 2.0, but it was a nice idea in terms of the costumes and all these other things. Why not use it as an opportunity for, to showcase a lot of things prior to, but these are just things that put a working committee together, and I think it's possible, right? Folks, that's all for now. We can talk for the whole afternoon with sports, Talk Sports Bar and Grill and RMC Concept. Yeah, Talk Sports Bar and Grill. Jenny, I took that down quickly, boy, because somebody might just take that name and go with it. Talk Sports Bar and Grill. Yeah, but on a serious note, folks, I think we are in a sort of hype for sports led by track and field, and I just want, and I'm hoping that can emulate into other sporting disciplines, including cricket. By the way, we're hosting West Indies and Australia in a test match in July. So all of that are things that we have to, build up, and are hoping that the Cricket Association can come on board and chat with us and let us know what's happening, but a lot of things, and basketball and cricket and football and all the other, netball, all the other sporting disciplines can come take some sort of inspiration from what's happening in terms of track and field and swimming. And let's see if that can, motivate and inspire the next generation of sportsmen and sportswomen. By the way, folks, I think this weekend, if I'm not mistaken, it's tonight, is Sports Award. So sportsman and sportswoman for 2024 will be announced later on this evening. Yeah, right. Roger Michael Cheney. Okay, that's the Sports Bar and Grill Inc. Right. Thank you very much, folks. That's all for this evening. It's always a pleasure having you. Looking forward to your company. Come next weekend, hopefully we'll talk more about that. But until then, do have yourself a pleasant weekend.